Largest injury law firm.
Hey, good evening. Thanks for joining us. We start at 6:30 with a 13 weather impact alert for the possibility of severe storms tonight. Let's just get right to meteorologist Blake Hansen, Amber Torrey. Hey guys, you've been tracking this system all day long. What can you tell us at this hour?
Yeah, hey Lauren, it's all about how the next hour or two really plays out with these thunderstorms to our west across Wisconsin into northern Illinois. We'll say we've been watching this really since afternoon. Our confidence is quite low on how tonight and really this evening will play on, Amber. But there is still that potential just because we have those favorable ingredients in our atmosphere. Yeah. And that's why we have our 13 weather impact alert. 6 o'clock to midnight. More specifically, it looks to be about 8 this evening to around 11 this evening. I think that 3-hour time frame is going to be our main shot at any strong to severe thunderstorms across West Michigan because of those higher ingredients here at home. Yeah, we have all potential of severe weather. Wind, a few tornadoes, maybe some small hail, but wind does appear to be our main risk. It's that time to stay weather aware with those numerous weather notifications. Let's get to radar, and you can see how we have quiet weather for most. There is a little bit of rain south of Kalamazoo, and that was all due to a thunderstorm complex all the way back in Iowa this morning. That kind of put a wrench in some things as well, but there it is. That's our focus right now. This thunderstorm complex that's trying to develop, we'll say it's not really firing off as expected. But you have one particular cell right here. You get into it to the north and east of Peoria.
Yeah, this cell specifically is something we've been keeping a really close eye on, especially considering that it kind of has this northeastern trajectory. That's where it looks like it's going to be traveling. And this is not just a cell that looks like a tornado on radar. It's been observed by trained spotters. It's observed as a large, dangerous tornado. Some of the wording within that even considered to be a very dangerous and deadly situation by the National Weather Service.
And this is what we'll be watching as the next hour or two progresses. Notice back to the north and west, this is just heavy rainfall. Nothing that's of severe note. Now, flooding, flash flooding is a high potential or high mindset for us, but at least from a severe potential, there's nothing with that line to the west that's raising our alarm, at least. It's all about what can develop right in here from the Wisconsin-Illinois border back to that supercell that's to the north and east of Peoria, and how this goes over the next hour or two across West Michigan. Those numbers sit in the 70s to lower 80s, so a bit cooler than yesterday, but we still have enough storm fuel in our atmosphere because we have more favorable synoptic ingredients in our atmosphere. We have a cold front nearby. There's a few other things we don't need to get into the weeds of meteorology with, but it's all with some favorable ingredients from a larger scale note. And the humidity is picking back up, upper 60s to around 70 degrees. And that's still why the risk, that enhanced risk, still remains across West Michigan.
Yeah.
And that's where we're going to see, obviously, over the next few hours, how these things evolve, that level 3 risk all across West Michigan. And really, there's the timing. This is our graph model. I think this is the higher end potential here. I don't know how I feel about this, Amber, right now, but it does show that this would congeal into a line by about 8, 9 o'clock, work its way into West Michigan, and present that damaging straight line wind potential, along with maybe a few embedded tornadoes as well. So that's what we're going to be looking at.
Yeah, certainly an environment that's primed for severe weather. We'll just have to see if that can come to fruition.
You know, and in fact, one last thing, it does look like there's now a separate supercell that's developing to the south of that ongoing tornado north and east of Peoria. So again, that is going to be our focus over the next hour or two. Coming up in a few minutes, we'll talk more about the timing of this evening, our thoughts, what's radar looking like, and a little bit of a cool down that is ahead eventually in the 7-day forecast. We'll have that for you a few minutes from now.
Thanks, Blake and Amber. And like they both just mentioned, these storms could have widespread impact. That's why we have several crews across West Michigan preparing for the storms to hit. 13 on your side, Nick Nelson is live in the Weather Chaser. Nick, where are you heading?
Yeah, Lauren, we just passed through Zeeland on the 196 business loop. We are just approaching the Holland Township and Holland area to keep kind of a measure on these storms as they come in. I want to give you a look at what's in front of us. You can see the sky with a little bit of cloud cover in front of us as we make our way west on the 196 business loop to the Holland area. You can see the sky is kind of beginning to darken a little bit a few hours ahead of the arrival of these thunderstorms. Now, as you've heard from Blake and Amber, we're expecting these storms to roll in at about 8 o'clock tonight. And now, if you live on the lakeshore here in the Holland area or elsewhere on the lakeshore, it's important that you stay weather aware and make sure that you're getting important information about what may be developing in real time. Now, we are just about to haul into the lakeshore to monitor the situation as it develops here. We, of course, will bring that as soon as we get it. Now, live in the Weather Chaser, Nick Nelson, 13 on your side.
And 13 on your side, Micah Cho is also covering the storm from the lakeshore. He joins us live from Saugatuck. Micah, what can you tell us?
Yeah, Lauren, so we are again in Saugatuck over at Oval Beach, and as we said maybe around 10 minutes ago, you probably wouldn't be able to tell that there's this impending storm that's coming through with the amount of beachers that are here at Oval Beach. This is a look at the horizon here. It's pretty blue. It's getting a little dark. I would say, you know, it's a little bit darker than our drive out here. It was pretty sunny skies leaving from Grand Rapids to Saugatuck with that hour drive. We only hit rain maybe once on our way down here. Wind is starting to pick up a little bit, but it's one of those things where the wind's going really fast, it dies down. We're in one of those lulls right now. We'll probably get it looks like it's starting to pick back up again. But Saugatuck right now is our area that we're keeping an eye on. For now, live in Saugatuck, I'm Micah Cho for 13 on your side.
And storms earlier this week brought down trees and tore apart family homes in West Michigan, a situation some may find themselves again tomorrow morning. 13 on your side's Michael Martin takes us through what you should be thinking a day after a damaging storm. We're going to have that coming up later on. And after the break, we're also going to be hearing about the World Cup, it's underway. And you may have noticed some new rules on the pitch, what those new rules and how fans at one local sports bar are enjoying at the tournament next.
I've been busy lately. I tried a wrongful death case for $75 million. I settled a different wrongful death for $37 million and another one for $20 million. Those are massive numbers, unprecedented for any law firm in this town, unprecedented for the state of Michigan, and I'm personally involved. We get more money for clients than anyone in this town. Ask around. Let's meet. Call or click. It's free. Who you hire matters.
More than 4 billion people are planning to watch the World Cup tournament, but there are some new rules in place this year that you may want to know about. Here's what you need to know.
If you're one of the more than 4 billion people planning on watching this year's World Cup, there are a few rule changes you might want to know about. Red card, you're off the field.
New rule. Covering your mouth during an on-pitch confrontation could equal a red card. This was introduced after Vinicius Jr. accused a rival of racist abuse in the Champions League.
All right, you've got 5 seconds. That's 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
There's now a new 5-second rule for throw-ins. The referee will raise their hand and start the countdown, exceed the time limit, and the possession is reversed. And the same rule applies to goal kicks, except the punishment is a corner for the opposition.
Substitutions.
I'm just gonna take my time. We're up, we're winning, we're up 1-0.
All right, 10,
Might as well
9,
wave to the fans.
8, 7,
Act like I'm
6.
tying my shoe.
Player vision, you've got 5 seconds to get off the field. 4,
Maybe stretch a bit.
3,
We're up, we're winning. It's
2,
fine.
1. You're off for a minute now.
So if a player is being replaced, they have 10 seconds to leave the pitch. If it takes longer than that, then the incoming player will have to wait for a full minute before coming onto the pitch.
Okay, ref, he's clearly faking it. Come on, get a load of this guy.
My leg!
You need to leave the field to
Medical
receive
team.
treatment. Please leave
Just
the
need
field.
30 seconds.
No, I'm sorry, you need to leave the field for minimum 1 minute to receive medical treatment. Minimum 1 minute before you can return.
Players receiving on-field treatment must leave the pitch and wait at least a minute before returning. There are a couple of exceptions though. If the injury was caused by a foul that resulted in a card, and 2, if the player returning needs to take a penalty kick. Handball is inside the box.
Handball.
That wasn't a
Penalty.
handball.
It's a penalty. He's inside the box,
That
ref.
wasn't a handball.
See?
That wasn't a handball.
This is a pen.
It didn't touch his
Inside the
hand.
box.
Yellow. No arguing.
Only the team captain is allowed to argue with the referee. Any other player protesting risks getting a yellow card. Oh, I'm exhausted.
Jesus, could do with a 3-minute hydration break right about
All right,
now.
3-minute hydration break.
Ooh, I like this rule. Ooh. Lastly, there'll be a 3-minute hydration break around the 22-minute mark into each half.
FIFA says they introduced this rule as a player welfare measure.
They say 16 of the stadiums across Mexico, US, and Canada are open air, exposing the players to extreme summer heat.
And there you have it. Now you're ready to watch your favorite team in the 2026 World Cup.
Back here, 20% of adults in the United States read below a 4th grade level, and one nonprofit in Muskegon is fighting to raise literacy rates right here in West Michigan. 13 on Your Side's Rick Dorsey sat down with Read Muskegon to hear about their mission and their new building in downtown Muskegon Heights.
There's been so much negative in the news about the Heights, and we are so excited to be something positive to talk about.
Executive Director Melissa Moore reflects on her excitement to continue to serve the Muskegon Heights community.
Literacy does not discriminate. It is in rural communities, it is in predominantly white communities, it is people in all different economic areas of our county and our country. But we believe that the work we do can be a really important part of the revitalization of Muskegon Heights.
Read Muskegon provides literacy programs throughout the community to anyone in need.
We go into churches, into schools, into community spaces. We provide programs for men and women in the county jail. everything from early literacy programs for 0 to 5-year-olds and their parent, grandparent, auntie, uncle, whoever wants to bring them in to help build the skills to get ready for school.
The new building represents a fresh start for anyone looking to learn how or improve their reading abilities.
This building is the tool that's going to allow us to provide programming and space to people who haven't had access to it before. So this is just the beginning.
Read Muskegon also provides English as a second language program and tutoring for school-age children. Reporting in Muskegon Heights, Rick Dorsey, 13 on your side.
We're still tracking conditions under this 13 weather impact alert. Blake, any updates for us?
Yeah, Lauren, it's all about this incoming line cluster of thunderstorms. We've been kind of talking about it over the last hour and a half now, that it's been quite messy, the look to our west. And that does lower our confidence. I have to shoot everyone straight here that it does lower our confidence about what can happen later this evening. But starting to see some signs that things are trying to get their act together. These storms are trying to get their act together. We have our weather impact alert now through midnight. We'll say it looks like this will be arriving closer to the lakeshore around 8 to 9 o'clock in the evening. Really, I think more towards 8, and then into the US 131 corridor, specifically the greater Grand Rapids area, places southward around 9 to 10 o'clock, and then eventually sweeping through the rest of our neck of the woods here in West Michigan by about 11 o'clock to midnight. Our focus is on the potential for severe storms. With the ingredients present in our atmosphere, whether severe weather happens or not, those ingredients do support the risk of all modes, including damaging wind, a few tornadoes, some large hail. Now, just because we have favorable ingredients in our atmosphere, that just doesn't mean we're going to see severe storms. It's like when you're baking a cake, you might have the ingredients out on your kitchen counter, but that doesn't mean that you're going to all of a sudden see a cake pop out of nowhere. We just have these favorable ingredients present in our atmosphere. The million-dollar question is, how will these storms interact with those favorable ingredients over the next few hours? The bottom line here is to stay weather aware and having those numerous weather notifications so that you are prepared and have no worry as this evening goes on. 13 weather ball is blinking blue. We will be cooler tomorrow, and for many a welcome sight is that it will be less humid tomorrow. But before we can get to Friday, we have to make our way through this evening in the way of those incoming thunderstorms. 13 weather ball brought to you by Countryside Greenhouse of Allendale. As for what's going on right now, we have just an isolated shower left over south of Kalamazoo. This was an earlier thunderstorm complex that brought severe weather across Iowa this morning, eventually into Illinois this afternoon. This is how completely fizzled apart. Now our focus is back to our west, and look at the thunder and lightning that's associated with this cluster of storms to our west, starting to get its act together as this interacts with some favorable ingredients. Over the past few hours, it's been quite messy. We have a boundary draped across northern Illinois, and these storms have been training one after another. This has been mostly a heavy rain flash flooding concern for northern Illinois into a little bit of southern Wisconsin. But now that boundary is starting to interact with some of those favorable ingredients. We're seeing somewhat of a semblance of a line take shape, and that is what we'll be watching over the next hour or two, is how this line behaves as it continues to interact with those said favorable ingredients. We have an ongoing tornado just to the north and east of Peoria. There it is. There's Peoria down in the bottom left hand of your screen. This has been confirmed by trained weather spotters over the last 30 minutes or so. This is traveling in a north and east progression. So notice if it continues a north and east direction, that would be heading towards southern lower Michigan here at home. So something we're going to be watching for over the next couple hours. On top of it, now we are starting to see severe thunderstorm warnings pop up in southern Wisconsin out ahead of this messy line. So now starting to see that there is some severe criteria being met with these storms getting their act together over the last 30 minutes or so, and this will likely continue eastward as this evening goes on. Our main concern is in the way of damaging wind. We have the potential for at least 60 mile-per-hour wind gusts. But if those ingredients can really come together, we could see wind gusts in excess of 70 to 75 miles per hour. If we truly do see a line form and work its way through West Michigan, we have the potential for some embedded tornadoes. I think our tornado risk is starting to trend lower, but I don't want to let everyone's guard be let down here with that tornado risk. We have to respect the tornado risk, especially if that line can come to fruition. It does appear the hail and flooding risk of this incoming thunderstorm complex is on the lower end. Storm prediction still has us under a level 3 enhanced risk out of 5. I'm going to show 2 models here. This is our first model, our in-house graph model. It's had somewhat of a handle on these storms, and look what it does over the next hour. Really takes shape of a squall line into West Michigan. We'll see how this goes. I think this would be the higher end of what could play out this evening. But if this would come to fruition, we'd be talking damaging wind and a few embedded tornadoes as this works west to east. Notice the coverage, though. I really do think that those that are near and southward of I-96 are more favored to see severe weather if this can come together over the next few hours. This all sweeps out of here by midnight. Here's our high-resolution model. This has not had as much of a handle on the ongoing storms over the past few hours, but if this scenario would play out, you can see how this is a bit more scattered in nature. We'd have more pockets of stronger storms, probably lesser of a severe risk, not meeting that high-end criteria that could emerge as the evening goes on. But same thing goes working through our lakeshore around 8 to 9 o'clock, inland along US 131, 9 to 10 o'clock, and then in our eastern communities, 10 to 11 o'clock, and then all out of here by midnight. We do fall to around 60 tomorrow. Temperatures tomorrow climbing the upper 70s to lower 80s. More importantly, we are going to be less humid tomorrow behind that cold front. That is what we'll be watching as our Friday goes on, or at least be enjoying as our Friday goes on. Last thing, late Saturday and early Sunday, one last system comes through, a few showers, a few thunderstorms. There is a low-end severe risk Saturday night into early Sunday, and then we cool off even more next week, Lauren, only in the 70s, so a bit of a cooler feel. Again, myself, Amber, we're going to be here in the Weather Center all evening long as these storms knock on the doorstep and have the latest for you if that severe potential does start to pick up.
Blake, thank you. Storms earlier this week brought trees down and tore apart family homes in West Michigan, a situation some may find themselves again tomorrow morning. 13 on your side's Michael Martin takes us through what you should be thinking a day after a storm.
To call insurance or not? That's the big question when the damage happens to your home. But the experts say the answer isn't so simple. It depends on the damage and the policy you pay for. So the storms roll in. By morning, the worst may be over, but for some families, the questions are just beginning. Where do you start when it's your home that's damaged?
I would start with calling my insurance company or my agent. Just make sure you get the claim underway, that you're not going to take steps that won't be covered later.
Anita Fox leads Michigan's Department of Insurance and Financial Services. Before you hire anyone or start major repairs, you've got to make the call.
Contact my insurance company and say, what do I do?
Your next job, document everything.
Keep receipts, take pictures, document.
Photos of the damage, receipts for emergency expenses, record of every step you take along the way. And for homeowners trying to decide whether damage is serious enough for an insurance claim,
you can talk to them kind of in generalities. Hey, what's my deductible? You know, is this the kind of thing, the loss that I ought to be looking at?
She says you don't necessarily have to file a claim, but you should understand what your policy covers.
The best insurance claim you could have is one you never have to make.
And if you aren't impacted by these storms this week, well, they say use this as an opportunity to think about your own policy. Pull it out, look at what it covers, and if you need to adjust it. The time to do that is now when you aren't dealing with any sort of damage. Michael Martin, 13 on your side.
The search for Grand Rapids' next police chief is down to 4 finalists. Today, City Manager Mark Washington announced the candidates hoping to lead the Grand Rapids Police Department. The finalists are interim Grand Rapids Police Chief Joe Trigg, Mark Bliss, a Detroit Police Department Deputy Chief, Eve Stevens, a former Chief of Police at the University of Texas at Austin, and Rafael Diaz, a Kalamazoo Department of Public Safety Captain. You can learn more about each candidate right now on our website, 13onyourside.com. The city is also inviting the public to help with the process. A community meet and greet with the finalists is set for next Wednesday night at City Hall. That starts at 5:45, followed by a public forum at 7. Residents can submit questions for the candidates online through Monday. City leaders say community feedback will play a key role in selecting the city's next police chief. The Muskegon County mother convicted of killing and torturing her teenage son will not get a new trial. Shonda Vander Ark's motion for a new murder trial was denied by a circuit court judge. He wrote the evidence of her guilt in the case was, quote, overwhelming. It comes after Vander Ark took the stand herself in March to testify that her original defense attorney was ineffective. She was found guilty of killing 15-year-old Timothy Ferguson in December of 2023 and was sentenced to life in prison without parole the following month. Still to come, we'll have a final look at your forecast next. All eyes is on weather tonight because who knows what could happen.
Yeah, it's it's the fun part about meteorology.
Yeah.
You know, for those that, like to poke fun at us and say, you're just doing it for hype. Well, it's just how weather forecasting goes. We're talking about individual thunderstorms on a micro scale level. Yeah, I mean, we try to forecast it days out, and I still think that we have that potential as this evening goes on. Look at some people leaving the beach behind us. Skies are darkening up, but no imminent severe threat right now. At least I would say for the next 45 minutes to the next hour. But when we take a look at satellite and radar, just stratiform rain showers, your run-of-the-mill rain showers north of Muskegon trying to press in. But we're still fighting some dry air near our surface here in West Michigan. You can see that a lot of that's kind of not really making it to the lakeshore just yet. Our focus is back to the west, and there's a lot of thunder and lightning with these storms. I think there's going to be a good light show. At the very least, with these thunderstorms that press in. And our focus here is both in the way of some supercell tornadoes that have been observed. In fact, Amber, you've seen a little bit of this, upwards of maybe a half-mile wide wedge on the ground, some impactful tornadoes to the northeast of Peoria. This is all heading north and eastward. We're going to be watching that direction of those storms entering a favorable environment. And now there are severe thunderstorm warnings. That was a mess an hour ago. We talked about this all evening, a mess. And now we're starting to see that, look at this, by the way, maximum wind 60 miles per hour, and the threat also includes a tornado possible. So this line is gaining some strength here. This line is trying to get its act together, and that is what we'll be watching over the next hour, is how this line starts to interact as it presses closer and closer. But I will say the severe threat, while we've been not as confident over the last couple hours, we're starting to see some confidence grow again that that threat may start to increase across West Michigan. Lauren, I really think the biggest threat is going to be near and southward of I-96.
Yes.
We've been talking about it all evening long, and that's what we'll have. We'll have everyone covered whatever happens over these next few hours.
And good to know that you guys will be streaming if anything major happens.
Yes, absolutely.
We'll be streaming, and then for those, we have NHL hockey on our actual newscast on 13 on your side, WZZM. We will do our best to respect those that love hockey in the game itself, but we will have to interrupt if we deem it necessary in some sorts of severe weather that could happen.
All right. Thank you so much, guys. We'll be tracking that, and thank you for joining us. We'll see you later.
Good Thursday evening, West Michigan. The time sits at 7:55. I'm meteorologist Blake Hansen. Alongside me is meteorologist Amber Twardy. And Amber, thunderstorms are now starting to get their act together, nearing our lakeshore communities, likely within the next hour. And the expectation is from the Storm Prediction Center, a tornado watch will likely be issued for some of West Michigan. It does appear at least along and southward of I-96, those communities in the vicinity of I-96 and places southward. Let's get into it. This is the look out of Grand Haven, and you can see a very stormy look behind us. People still on the beach. They don't have much time before some of these storms are going to be pushing in. But we talked about this, Amber, over the last few hours. We've been looking at that thunderstorm complex to our west, and now it's finally getting its act together.
Yeah, really started messy, but finally we're starting to see this organization, but especially this Boeing segment that's now offshore from Kenosha. It will be traveling further to the east-northeast, likely between about Holland and Muskegon is where I think this thing is really going to be arriving. Right
in there. That's where this Boeing segment is looking very likely. And by the way, Amber, I was able to put a sampling of the wind here. And right now, our main risk is still in the way of damaging straight line winds. Look at some of the wind velocity here, and what we're talking about is a sampling of the winds a little bit higher up in the atmosphere, but some of these samplings are indicating wind gusts in excess of 60 to maybe even 70 miles per hour, at least in certain points, and that is what we'll be looking at over the next hour or two as these storms come through. It does appear that those that are at the lakeshore will likely see this arrive. Primarily will go broadly near and south of Muskegon as the higher risk at the lakeshore within the next hour. So between 8 and 9 o'clock, that's our time frame there. With wind gusts, our main concern, potentially 60, 70 plus miles per hour. And we also, with that tornado watch, likely going to be issued from the Storm Prediction Center. We're waiting any minute now for this tornado watch to be issued. Is that the risk for tornadoes a bit on the elevated side because we likely could see some embedded tornadoes in this squall line, this bow echo that could form.
Some strong enough wind shear within some of the lowest levels of our atmosphere, which means that we've got some twist, we've got some rotation that can create some of those tornadoes that could pop up along the line. So yes, wind is our main concern, but if you get that little notch within a line, that can create that rotation and result in a tornado.
So the bottom line here for folks that are watching us, we're just interrupting programming for a few minutes here, and then we'll get you back to regular programming. The NHL Finals are on. We are going to respect the NHL Finals as much as we can tonight. If we do have to interrupt the game itself, we will be cutting our programming into a split box. One of the boxes will be the game itself muted. The audio will be muted. The other box will be myself and Amber doing coverage with our audio on. I do want to just kind of give a quick sampling of when this line could come through over the next, we'll say 90 minutes or so. And again, it's looking like about 8:38. That's when it would be arriving towards Muskegon, just a touch earlier for those at the Duck Lake State Park. But again, down the line towards Holland and Grand Haven, probably roughly in that same time frame, about 8:30 to 8:45 is what we're aiming for here. And if this continues its progression, this would be reaching the greater Grand Rapids area between 9 and 9:30 in the evening. So there's our heads up for those at home. We'll see how this continues to evolve for places eastward of the greater Grand Rapids area. But for those at the lakeshore, Muskegon, Grand Haven, Holland, Saugatuck, South Haven, that's the greater opportunity for these strong, damaging straight line winds and potentially an embedded tornado within that line. Something we'll really be watching over the next 45 minutes because, again, we're looking at about an 8:30 to 8:45 arrival of these storms at the lakeshore. And here's the thing, these storms have been intensifying over the past hour. And there's no reason to see that these will weaken as they approach onshore. So again, the timing here is 7:59. We're about 30 seconds away from the top of the hour. The NHL Finals will be on our air here at WZZM. Again, we are going to respect the game as much as possible by working around that with a split box, the game in one box, our coverage in another if need be, if we do have to interrupt regular programming. But for now, you can also download the 13 on Your Side app. You can watch our stream there and watch us continuously throughout this evening with any coverage that needs to happen.
Well, good evening, West Michigan. Thanks for joining us on our 13 on Your Side streaming app. We have been talking about severe weather yesterday, all day long, leading up to tonight, as we are looking at the chance for severe weather into the next couple of hours. There is going to be a line of strong to severe thunderstorms making its way across Lake Michigan. It's doing that right now, likely to arrive to the shoreline within the next hour or so. We are looking at our 13 weather impact alert. Let's start by talking about that first. Our threat exists from now until about midnight. The reason that we have issued this alert is because we are seeing this high heat and humidity that's adding fuel to these thunderstorms that we do expect to be severe at this point. We're even looking at a very high likelihood for a tornado watch to be issued by the Storm Prediction Center. Hasn't happened quite yet, but of course we'll be keeping you updated and let you know the second that that does drop. Now, what you'll need to do is make sure that you're staying weather aware. If you're joining us here right now, well, you're doing exactly that. I would say to get some of your loved ones in on it as well, because we are expecting tonight to bring severe weather that could have an impact on anybody that's in West Michigan, but specifically around and south of I-96. That's where we are going to be seeing the greatest threat. So let's talk about where we stand right now. Looking out on radar, a lot of lightning that's packed within these thunderstorms. So it's going to be a light show regardless, but this strong Boeing segment that's making its way across Lake Michigan. It already produced a tornado warning through the Kenosha area. It continues to travel further east and will likely be arriving to about the Holland, Grand Haven, Muskegon lakeshore not too long from now. Within the next hour is when we're going to be seeing that. Now, I want to show you our temperatures because this is why we are primed for the chance of severe weather. Where the storms have already passed through over in Wisconsin, temperatures are currently in the 60s, but we are still 70s, 80s here in West Michigan with dew points that are largely sitting in the upper 60s. That means we have a lot of moisture packed into our atmosphere that's going to add fuel to these thunderstorms, especially when we're looking at this Boeing segment. This is something we've been keeping a really close eye on, as we do anticipate seeing likely a couple of warnings out of it. Already a special marine warning that's been issued leading up to the lakeshore between Whitehall and South Haven. This will be lasting until 9:30 as we are expecting some really strong wind with that Boeing segment moving in. Here's a closer look at where that line is. You can see some of these really bright reflectivity colors. This is what would indicate really strong winds at the surface, currently at the water surface, but by the time it does arrive to land, it's still likely going to be producing winds that could be upwards of 50, 60 miles an hour potentially. Switching over and looking at our velocity product here, this is actually looking at what would be inside the storm. So this is technically what we would call storm relative velocity. We would usually look at this to see if there's any rotation. It is possible we could see a couple of spots along the line that have a bit of that rotation, and spin up tornadoes embedded within this main line certainly are a possibility. That's what we've been talking about for the past multiple hours, but I want to switch over to just show you velocity by itself. Some of these really bright colors that we're seeing show up. I want to plot a couple of data points even just to kind of give you an idea of just how strong these winds are. Now, keeping in mind this is sampling probably a couple hundred feet up in the atmosphere. The reasoning for that is because, well, the Earth curves away from the radar beam itself, so it's sampling something a little higher up, but still wind speeds up to about 77 miles an hour. Some of that can mix down to the Earth's surface, or at least at this point, the water's surface, and that is what can produce some of those winds that do reach severe potential, severe strength, and this is something that we are certainly going to be watching over the next couple of hours. This is something especially that we are going to be monitoring as we head from now until midnight. That's when it looks like we've got this severe threat, especially considering that this line of storms has already had a history of producing severe weather. A couple of warnings that have popped up across northern Illinois, also a few that were in southern Wisconsin, really southeastern Wisconsin. At this point, we have not seen any warnings pop up in West Michigan yet. Still, as this line does approach, because we have not had really anything in the way of thunderstorm activity today and very little in the way of rain and showers anyways, we are going to be expecting an environment that is still very much so primed for severe weather development. That means the warm temperatures, the high humidity, a lot of that moisture in our atmosphere, and then also high wind shear, especially within the lowest levels of our atmosphere, which means that that rotation does become a concern. That's where we bring in that concern of the possibility of tornadoes. So a little bit of a closer look too, where we're seeing the greatest risk. It is going to be displaced off to our southwest. Northern Illinois is where we've been seeing that highest potential. There's been some really impressive videos, photos that I've seen out of about the Peoria, Joliet areas. That's where it does look like there was a very strong, very damaging tornado that moved through. Now, that does look to have still moved its way further northeast. At this point, though, we are still under only a 3 out of 5 risk from the Storm Prediction Center. Looks like we've got that tornado watch that has dropped, so I'm going to see if that's already loaded into our system or not yet. So not quite yet, but it does sound like the tornado watch has officially been issued for West Michigan. Now we're going to wait for some of these data points to actually load up so that we can show you where that is. But it is something that we are going to be monitoring as we head into these next couple of hours. So we've been talking about multiple different potentials for different types of severe weather too. Tornadic activity certainly is a chance here. I want to kind of give you a little bit of a breakdown of what we're seeing from the Storm Prediction Center, these different hazards. Tornado risk, you can kind of see that little bit of yellow that's creeping along the shoreline right around and south of Grand Haven along the immediate shoreline. And then we're also included in the hatched area. What the hatched area means when we're looking at these very specific hazard risks is that we are going to be looking at the potential for strong, violent tornadoes that could be upwards of EF2 strength. So that is a chance heading into tonight. This is why we are making sure that you are prepared into this evening. We are also going to be seeing a very high likelihood for damaging wind. I do think that that is going to be still our main concern as we're heading into this evening. Large hail, maybe some of that. I do think that it's going to be more so smaller than what we would see, and definitely a lower end risk compared to what we're seeing from wind as well as tornadoes. So we'll kind of reset things back here, show you a look at what we're seeing on radar. Looks like things are trying to load. There we go. Still quite a bit of a light show. Lots of lightning being produced out of this Boeing segment that's moving through. I'm going to turn off our lightning product just so that we can get an idea of exactly what we're seeing from this. So we are continuing to watch this line here specifically. There's a couple of these little white spots, almost the silverish color. That would usually indicate that we would be expecting hail being produced by those segments of these thunderstorms that are moving through. Now, I do think that there is that chance that we could see at least a little bit of hail embedded within some of these storms, but I still don't think it's our main threat. Main threat looks to be, with these Boeing segments specifically, strong winds that could be upwards of 70 miles an hour. We've even been looking at the chance for some of these winds that could possibly get closer to the 80 mile an hour mark. Embedded within that, possibly a little bit of rotation, and that's what can create some of those thunderstorms that could become tornadic even. So we've been talking about that all day long, all evening long. I'm going to switch back to our watches here and see if our product is loaded in. Does not look like it has quite yet. Still, I want to reiterate.
They're having issues with the watch being issued to partners.
All right, yeah, it sounds like some of those, it sounds like the watch is having a bit of an issue being issued out. Meteorologist Blake Hansen is behind the scenes kind of helping me out. And he's going to have a little bit more information later on, but let's still talk about what we're seeing at this point. So currently there we go. That's our first severe thunderstorm warning that we have seen for West Michigan. I was just about to say we haven't seen one yet, but there it is. Yep.
And this
So
one,
Muskegon, Ottawa, and Allegan counties.
I think we should maybe break in a little bit here.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then the watch just got issued too, so the watch is in there now as well.
All right.
So for those on streaming right here, Amber, thank you so much for helping me out over these last few minutes as we try to figure out what was going on with that watch. Amber and I are going to just stay here for 1 second. For the guys in the back, we are going to cut into regular programming for a little bit and do that thing with the split box with NHL hockey because we do have this tornado watch now across much of West Michigan, the majority of West Michigan, and also now this new tornado warning for Allegan, Ottawa, and Muskegon County for 70-mile-per-hour winds and small penny-sized hail. So we'll just sit here real closely, and when we're ready, we'll start talking again.
The game's not on yet. Are we doing weather switcher?
The game isn't on yet, but...
Fair.
Yep.
Considerable threat, too. I don't know if you...
I'm good to be on max 1.
Perfect.
Yeah, I could be on max 1, yep. Let me grab my clicker. We interrupt regular programming here. It is 8:14 in the evening. Meteorologist Blake Hansen alongside me is meteorologist Amber Twardy, and we have a couple of things to talk about to the public here across West Michigan. Just in the last few minutes, the Storm Prediction Center has issued a tornado watch for much of West Michigan all the way until 2 in the morning. I think most of these storms will be out of here by 2 in the morning, but that's just a nice extension of time. This includes pretty much Muskegon, Newaygo, Mecosta County, and everyone southward. So those are our counties. Really, the only counties not included in this tornado warning, or tornado watch, excuse me, is Oceana and our counties along US 10. Alongside that, Amber, we have seen these thunderstorms really take off over the last half hour. You were just talking about it. Look at this bow echo coming in to our lakeshore communities. This is all pressing in from the west. You can see the curvature. I'll stop it right here, right in here. There is our curvature, what we call a bow echo, that is pressing through the heart of Lake Michigan right now. And within the last, 2 minutes or so we have now a severe thunderstorm warning for Muskegon, Ottawa, and Allegan County for wind gusts upwards of 70 miles per hour, and also the threat of an embedded tornado. And that is going to be arriving very shortly. These storms are moving, Amber, at about 60 miles per hour. So I'm just going to give a quick little track here.
They are racing through 60 miles an hour, and that's just the motion of the storms themselves, not to count the embedded wind gusts that go within the outflow of these thunderstorms, and that's where we see that damaging wind threat come from.
And look at some of the timing here, just putting a track on this. Give yourself about 10 more minutes of lead time than what we're trying to tell you right here, but 8:41 for those in Grand Haven, 8:43 in Holland, 8:52 for those in Muskegon. The apex of this bow, where likely the strongest winds will reside, is likely going to be heading somewhere near Holland. These winds could be well in excess of 70 miles per hour. Been noticing that a little bit on radar over the past couple minutes or so, that we have seen our velocity sampling, the measure of winds in our atmosphere, well over 60 to 70 miles per hour. In fact, a little bit of a closer look here, you can really see these bright greens on the map here.
Yeah.
That's the bow echo right there.
Really strong winds on the way, and of course for these areas that are underneath a warning right now, a warning means that the threat is either present or it's imminent, it's on its way, and currently that is the case for Muskegon, Ottawa, and Allegan counties. So what that means is that you want to really enact that severe weather plan right now. Now is the time. Honestly, for a lot of counties that are further inland, usually if you get that warning, it means that you should already be in your basement, your most interior room of your home, and thankfully, there's a little bit of lead time. There's a bit of warning for some of these areas that are getting this severe thunderstorm warning right now.
Yeah, again, Muskegon, Ottawa, and Allegan County. Those are the three counties that are under the severe thunderstorm warning that will likely see the strongest winds from this bow echo. And this is what we're going to be watching as this approaches over the next 30 to 45 minutes. For those that are a little bit farther north, a little bit farther to the north of Muskegon County into Oceana and Mason County, likely not going to contend with severe winds. You probably will miss out on this. That's good news, because you're going to be a little bit placed northward of the bow echo itself. So that is something that we'll keep a close eye on. But for those that are watching maybe from Pentwater to Ludington, don't necessarily think that you're going to be in the vicinity of the strongest winds. We're primarily looking at Muskegon. We are looking at Norton Shores, for example, Montague. We're looking towards Grand Haven, Holland, down towards Saugatuck. Those lakeshore communities will likely see some strong winds, and if there's a more specific area that could see the apex of these strong damaging winds, it's likely near the Holland area. That is where we're locking in on where this bow echo is going to be coming into. And again, within the last couple minutes, just putting this a little bit of a track on here, we're looking at about 8:41 for those in Grand Haven, 8:43 in Holland, and then 8:52 in Muskegon. If this continues its eastern motion into the greater Grand Rapids area, this would likely work its way near Grand Rapids by about 9:05, 9:10 in the early evening. So that is something that we are going to closely watch as these storms work on shore. But right now, by all accounts, Amber, it appears that the main threat is those damaging straight line winds due to the nature of this bow echo.
Absolutely. When we were watching this Boeing segment, even over when it was still onshore in Wisconsin, we still were seeing the potential for really strong winds, but then also that chance for a bit of spin within notches along the line itself. So this bow echo that has some really strong wind gusts at this point, yes, aloft, but also down at the surface. And honestly, this is one of those radar images that looks pretty textbook.
I completely agree with you. This is the type of stuff that you would see in a textbook. If it brought up the example of a bow echo, this is pretty much it. This has really organized itself. We have been fairly dry all day long. In fact, much of West Michigan has been dry today. And while temperatures are a bit cooler compared to yesterday, we still have adequate amount of instability in our atmosphere. We have more wind shear in our atmosphere compared to yesterday, meaning more spin in our atmosphere. And that is really something we'll be watching as this line comes on shore, not only with the straight line wind risk, that obviously is our number one focus, but we'll be closely watching for any small notches in this line that could present embedded tornado risk as the evening goes on. So we're sitting at about 8:20 right now. Obviously, you can see if you're watching us on WZZM, we understand that the NHL finals are on right now. That is going to be all evening long. We are likely going to be interrupting regular programming, but hoping to keep you in this split box with the game on the right side of the screen, our coverage on the left side of the screen. This is what is important this evening, because these type of winds will cause power outages. They will cause damage. We're coming off the heels of strong storms in pockets yesterday evening, so that will even reinforce some of that tree damage. Maybe some of those trees are much weaker coming off the heels of yesterday's storms, and now we're going to reintroduce some 70-mile-per-hour winds.
Absolutely, even with so many of those power outages that still were not brought back essentially by the end of the day. I also want to note that with the severe thunderstorm warning having the considerable but also tornado possible tag, that is why it's so important for us to be able to stress that yes, this is a storm where we could see some pretty significant impacts out of it. I mean, here in West Michigan, we are familiar with straight line winds. We know how much damage they can do, and that sometimes they can be more destructive than tornadoes.
Yeah, so this is the time right now for those at the lakeshore, you know, while we are mostly talking about a wind threat because we do not have a tornado warning ongoing right now. We have the broader tornado watch across West Michigan, but right now the main threat here is for considerable straight line winds. It is still that time to utilize that severe weather plan. We talk about it all year long, especially here in the spring season, the early summer, that this is the time to utilize that plan, especially if you do not have a basement, if you do not have interior walls to protect yourself and possibly others in your residence. So that is something to really be in mind here, especially for, again, Muskegon, Ottawa, Allegan County. That is where this bow echo is surging in from the west. This is likely going to be arriving at the lakeshore within the next 20 to 30 minutes. I think about 8:45-ish is going to be about that broad time for these lakeshore communities for when this line is going to come in. And it does look like if there's a specific spot that I want to highlight here, it is roughly between Holland and Saugatuck, with maybe some of those strongest winds coming on shore. And that's what we're going to be looking at as this evening goes on in terms of how does this line of thunderstorm activity behaves. We are noticing some strong winds in our atmosphere. There's a better look at the velocity product here. And again, this is the measure of wind in our atmosphere. And you can see we're going to be closely watching any little notch that could be forming along this line too with that embedded tornado risk. As for the warning itself, this was at about 8:11, so 10 minutes ago. Severe thunderstorms were located 31 miles west of the Holland State Park, or 36 miles northwest of South Haven, moving eastward at 60 miles per hour. And the hazard still remains here for 70-mile-per-hour winds and potentially some penny to nickel-size hail. So the hail aspect is not necessarily our main concern, but don't be surprised if there is some small hail embedded in these thunderstorms that develop as they press through. Again, some of the wind gusts here being detected are meeting that severe criteria, 60 to 70 plus miles per hour working on shore. And again, all this is radar indicated right now because, of course, this is over the heart of Lake Michigan, but this will be quickly on shore as the hour goes by. Again, another little timer here. We have 8:39 at the Holland State Park, 8:45 at Holland itself. Definitely noticing a few thunderstorms out ahead of that main line. We'll see how those behave as this complex works through. We'll be interested to see how some of those cells interact as they work on shore.
Yeah, what I'm noticing too is that it's still a good deal offshore. It looks like there's still some space. I'm sure that there's some people that are still out at Grand Haven Beach and saying, hey, it's not raining quite yet. It's on its way, and this is moving very quickly. This line itself already moving around 60 miles an hour. So we've been talking about these really fast moving storms and how within that we can get even stronger wind gusts. Now, with that being said, it also means that you don't have a lot of lead time typically, and that's going to be the case throughout much of tonight, especially when it comes to these winds that are likely to be really impressive when we start to get reports by the end of the night. It also means that this is going to pass through the area pretty quickly. So by midnight, our severe risk should be done. This is a shorter period of time, only a couple of hours, but that's why you want to make sure you're staying weather aware during these time frames. And of course, we'll be helping you to do that here if we deem it necessary, like we do right now, or also on our 13 on Your Side streaming app.
Yeah, I think for right now, we still have a little bit of time. It is 8:25 here in the evening. For those in the back, I think we're going to let this go back to the NHL finals for a few minutes, and then we're going to probably re-interrupt programming, be back in this split box as these storms work on shore, at least when we start to notice that there is starting to become reports brought in from those lakeshore communities of what is going on. So it is 8:26. We're going to let you go back and watch the game in full. We'll have you covered the rest of this evening. By the way, if you want to watch our coverage, we'll continue this on our streaming app, the 13 on Your Side app that you can download for free. All right, we're going to send you back to the NHL Finals. Everyone kick.
Well, welcome back for those of you on streaming. Thanks for joining us. If you've just joined us within the past couple of minutes, we are looking at some weather that we have to talk about for this evening that's going to be impactful, especially for some of our lakeshore communities. We're already seeing a severe thunderstorm warning that has a considerable threat and a tornado possible tag. This is for Muskegon, Ottawa, and Allegan counties. This is going to be arriving within the next about 20 to 25 minutes to the lakeshore, the immediate lakeshore, continuing to travel further inland, and this line is likely going to reach reach the greater Grand Rapids area closer to about 9 o'clock. This is for the potential of winds that could be up to 70 miles an hour. So we are going to be looking at very strong winds within this Boeing segment specifically that we have been watching ever since it really moved over Lake Michigan. Since it's been in Wisconsin.
Yeah, we did. This was a mess about 2 hours ago. In fact, our confidence was quite low in how much were we going to see in the way of severe weather. But this has really taken off. You know, I'm going to use the word favorable. I don't know if favorable is the right word to use when we're talking severe weather, but in terms of the actual environment that's present now, we have enough fuel in the way of instability.
Yes.
We have spin in our atmosphere with wind shear that is starting to take off. So all of that coming through is indicating that we have enough to support this bow echo. And yeah, this is a pretty substantial line that is trying to get its act together and really has its act together now across the now eastern half of Lake Michigan.
Yeah. At this point, it definitely has some considerable strength to it. I mean, it does have that considerable tag. I, of course, want to bring it back to the fact that we are also under a tornado watch across all of West Michigan. This was recently extended over further east in the state. It will be in place until 2 in the morning. Still, we're thinking this threat is largely going to be wrapped up by about midnight or so.
And I know that this risk is large, and everyone that's under the tornado watch needs to respect that watch by the fine meteorologists at the Storm Prediction Center. I do think, and Amber, we've been in agreement about this over the last hour or two. It really seems like the risk will be from roughly Muskegon, Kent, a little bit of Montcalm County, and places southward. So closer to that vicinity of I-96 and places southward. That appears to be where the greatest risk will reside for some of these strong to damaging winds and potentially some embedded tornadoes. And here's the thing with this type of line coming in, this is a little bit different than the line that came through yesterday evening. That was kind of a broader squall line pressing through West Michigan. This line is a textbook bow echo. And this bow echo usually indicates that there will be an extended swath of strong to damaging winds. I do not get the feeling here that this is going to be more sporadic in coverage like we saw yesterday evening. So that is why our messaging is a little bit more direct right now. That is because that we are expecting that these winds will come on shore. We're definitely looking to be more southern side of Muskegon County. This is kind of tailing off a little bit to the east. So if you're watching from roughly Norton Shores, even if you're in the Muskegon area, adhere to this warning. But for those that are in Holland, in Grand Haven, Saugatuck, that is where likely those strongest winds could impact you over the next 30 minutes or so. We're sitting at about 8:32, and what do you got here with the timing, Amber? About 8:47 in Holland. So we're getting to about 15 minutes or so.
Yeah, so it's not far off, and then also important to note, I like how you mentioned this earlier. Looking at 8:47, if you're in Holland right now, that's not the time that you want to be in your basement. You want to be in your basement before that happens.
Now.
Yeah,
This
right
is the
now
time.
is the time.
Yeah, yeah, this is the time to do so, just to be prepped. Again, right now we are just looking at straight line winds with this bow echo, but we will closely be watching how this line behaves as it comes on shore, and we'll be watching for any embedded notches in the line itself that could support a tornado risk. And right now, yeah, you really can see where this line is taking hold. It's going to be heading right towards Holland, right along 196 towards Holland, Saugatuck, that general area, Douglas, for example, all those communities surrounding smaller communities between Holland, Saugatuck, Douglas, for example. This is the time to really watch these winds. And look at some of the winds that are being picked up here on our velocity map. We're talking 70 miles per hour. Yes, a little bit aloft in our atmosphere because, well, we talk about this all the time with severe weather. The Earth is curved, and the radar beam does shoot up a little bit higher up in the atmosphere. But still, we are seeing some strong winds being detected on our velocity product, and that is why the National Weather Service has gone ahead and made the messaging be of wind gusts upwards of 70 miles per hour, that considerable threat.
Yeah, and we've been looking too at a 3 out of 5 risk throughout much of today. It's an enhanced risk from the Storm Prediction Center. That's from meteorologists in Norman, Oklahoma. So even people that aren't situated anywhere near here, they don't live here, they are saying, hey, West Michigan looks like they could be seeing some significant severe weather tonight, especially when it comes down to wind. And there's no surprise when we're looking at some of these winds that we're sampling a bit higher up in the atmosphere. But here, I'll switch back on over to show you kind of the shape of this bow echo as well, because At this point, West Michigan, we are pretty familiar with straight line winds. Honestly, bow echoes, I think for a lot of people, especially for those that really pay close attention to storms like this and just weather in general, this is a shape that we have become familiar with. We know that this means that there's going to be very strong winds at the surface. There's a lot of energy that these storms have been able to pick up, especially just considering how primed our environment has been for this. The warm temperatures, the high humidity, all of that factors into feeding these storms, letting them get stronger. And we've been looking at the possibility for these storms to maintain their strength, maybe not. It does look like they've maintained their strength really well, though.
They really have, and this is coming off of an hour or two ago when this was quite messy. The complex of these thunderstorms were quite messy, and now they have fully oriented themselves into this line, this bow echo that's progressing through the eastern half of Lake Michigan. You can just tell the structure here. This is what you find in textbooks of a bow echo, and that is why we fully expect that there will be strong winds at the lakeshore very shortly. And some of that might even extend well farther into the northern half of the line. We always look at the apex of the line in terms of, or the apex of the bow for the strongest winds, but even the northern and southern flank of that bow echo can produce some of those stronger winds, and also even a risk of some quick spin-ups.
Yeah.
And that is what we'll be watching as this moves on shore. Kind of 8:35 here. We're probably talking about another 15 to 20 minutes, maybe a little bit closer to the 9 o'clock half hour or 9 o'clock hour. But again, this is now the time to utilize that severe weather plan. I know we're talking mostly straight line winds right now, but we saw the damage that occurred yesterday, and those were winds for the most part of only about 45 to 60 miles per hour. So we're talking potentially some wind gusts here that could be 60 to 70 miles per hour. For our lakeshore communities.
Yeah, I want to talk about kind of the history of this too, because when this line was over still, right on the shoreline of Wisconsin, right around the Kenosha area, there was a tornado warning that had popped up previously. And this was after we've been talking about it. It was a very messy complex of storms. I mean, just look at how unorganized it was.
This was more of a flash flooding risk
across
portions of northern Illinois and southern Wisconsin at about 5, 6 o'clock. We were very skeptical, Amber, about what this was going to be like. There was not a lot of signs pointing that this was going to turn into what we have right now.
Since then, we've definitely seen some pretty significant organization, especially looking at that one Boeing line. I mean, just look at how that's come together. Wow, it definitely.
The National Weather Service is saying the team's closely monitoring tornado potential as the storm makes landfall. Greatest tornado threat is along and north of the bow apex, roughly Holland to Grand Haven eastward. So Holland to Grand Haven eastward, just north of the bow apex, is where we need to be watching for tornadic activity in the next 10 minutes.
All right,
so those
perfect.
areas need to seek immediate shelter and get to their basements.
Okay, so I think we need to, next couple minutes, we are going to go back to our split box on regular programming here. We're going to give it about 2 more minutes.
Not seeing any rotation on velocity quite yet. That little notch could be something to watch for.
On and Sam, it said on the northern flank of that apex.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
This little notch right here.
So I think it's going to be right in here. Yeah, it's going to be right in here, just to the north of Holland. So if you're joining us, it's about 8:38 right now. We have this line, this bow echo that is coming into our lakeshore community. Specifically, we have a severe thunderstorm warning for Muskegon, Ottawa, Allegan County, wind gusts up to 70 miles per hour. That looks to be a likelihood.
Yeah.
I don't really think there's much worry about or much concern if this is going to happen or not. Looks like this is going to happen in the way of straight line winds. Now our biggest coverage is going to be debating how much rotation is going to be in some of these notches up and down the line as this bow echo makes its way on shore. And Bruce Smith at the National Weather Service office of Grand Rapids also indicating that potential as these lines as this line makes its way on shore. And the main perspective here, or the main watch, will be between Holland and Grand Haven. So pretty much across parts of Ottawa County and northern Allegan County is where we're going to be watching this line as it comes in over the next roughly 15 minutes or so. We're looking at maybe 10 to 15 minutes.
That possibility for a couple of notches to show up along the line, especially on that northern flank. I mean, it's something that we're seemingly already seeing at least a bit of, possibly a bit of a signature of that.
Yeah, I just want to give a better look here. We have another radar product that we can look at that. It seems like right in here. So if we can put the Max 2 real quick behind us, I just want to showcase something here. It really seems like that we are looking at right in here. I would say make this circle bigger. That is going to be our main concern for some tornado potential here. By the way, the wind is sampling. That's not right. Let's get down here. Yeah, easily winds of upwards of 60 to 70 miles per hour, but we are looking pretty much right in here. You can kind of see where that notch is going to try to feed in.
Yeah, that is exactly the spot.
That's where it's, Sam. That's kind of where we're looking at. This is going to be progressing.
These are some locations, if you guys want to read those off, for who needs to seek shelters, which is north of Holland. These are some of the streets and stuff.
Yeah, so for...
that area.
Yeah, so the area of Wakazu Woods, Beechwood, extending to the north of Holland, looking closer to Riley Street, Lakewood Boulevard, a bit further north up towards New Holland Street as well. So these are all of the areas that we're looking at. That little bit of a notch possibly making its way towards you within the next about 15 minutes at this point. I would say less than that, 10 to 15 minutes is how long you've got until this is going to be at your doorstep.
Yeah, this is going to be at the Holland State Park at about 8:47. If we do we have a view of Grand Haven, our broader beach camera? I just wanted to see what that sky was looking like. I know we're getting close to sunset. I'm trying to give a good look there. Yeah, you can really start to see some of that structure coming in. Wow, you can really see on the northern half of your screen there that there is that structure coming in, that impressive shelf cloud coming in from the lakeshore there. So this storm, this is a little bit north of Holland, of course, and Grand Haven is. But we are really closely watching the apex of this bow echo as it works its way somewhere near and north of Holland to Grand Haven. That is appearing to be where this is going to be the strongest portion of the bow. And we're looking at about 8:48 at Holland State Park. We're looking at about Park Township at 8:50. 8:54 specifically in Holland. So we have about 10 minutes until this is going to work on shore. 8:58 for Olive Township, 8:59 for Zeeland, the 9:02 for Zeeland Township. And if this continues to press eastward inland, eventually hitting Hudsonville at about 9:09, so about another 25 minutes from now. I think what we're going to do right now is we are going to we're going to interrupt regular programming. We're going to do the split box with the NHL finals.
We just got a tornado warning.
And we just got a tornado warning. So we do need to interrupt and head into regular programming right now.
Tornado warning, Ottawa County, till 9:30 p.m. Main areas, Beechwood, Holland, Zeeland, Hudsonville, Jenison.
Perfect.
Yeah,
if we can have this pulled up on Max 1, that will be, oh, this is close. Oh, I hate how this fill does not work. That's so deceiving.
Yeah, the fill doesn't work all the time. You're going to have to click out of the graphic. You're going to have to click out and then click back on.
When someone gets in it, export it really fast.
Say that again, Mark. Yes.
Yes. Oh, thank you. Thank you. All right. Do you want to swap spots?
Yeah, I want to swap spots here.
Like I can help you out with this thing,
Yeah.
especially. All right. What are you thinking?
I just was gonna. All right, I'm ready. I took off the fill. All right, I am ready to go.
Yep.
It is 9:44 here, or 8:44, excuse me, 8:44 here on this Thursday evening. I'm meteorologist Blake Hansen. Alongside me is meteorologist Amber Twardy. We have a tornado warning now in effect for Ottawa County until 9:30 this evening. This is on top of this ongoing severe thunderstorm warning that is for Muskegon, Ottawa, and Allegan County. But more specifically right now, we are looking at the tornado potential of this line that is trying to work into Ottawa County within the next several minutes. This tornado warning goes until 9:30 in the evening. At 8:42 p.m., this is from the National Weather Service, a severe thunderstorm warning was capable of producing a tornado. Was located near the Holland State Park, or 9 miles northwest of downtown Holland. There's downtown Holland right there, so we're looking pretty much right in here. Then this was moving eastward at 55 miles per hour. This dangerous storm will be near Beechwood at about 8:45, so that is now. It is 8:45. Holland and Zeeland around 8:50 this evening, and if this continues its progression eastward, Hudsonville and Jenison around 9 this evening. This storm is moving eastward at 55 miles per hour. We're going to get to velocity right now. Just want to showcase what we are looking at right now, and it is right in here. Yeah, you can really see this. So this is what we're looking at, our rotation product that's looking inside the storm. We are looking right about here. Get a better, this is what we're looking at. You can see how we're looking at our product of velocity right now, so that's the aspect of wind from the radar site at the Ford International Airport, south and east of Grand Rapids. The green coloring is inbound, the red coloring is outbound from the radar site, and when those are closely together, that is what we're closely keeping an eye on, the potential for strong winds and that broad rotation that could be producing a tornado. As for what we got here, this is pushing onshore within the next few minutes. We're going to put a little bit of a loop here on it. This is, again, moving eastward at about 55 miles per hour. So putting a track on this. Port Sheldon Township, this is on your doorstep. This is about 2 minutes from now. West Olive at 8:51. Olive Township, same about a few minutes later at 8:54. Zeeland, 8:58. This might be just a bit north of Zeeland if this continues its easterly track. Same thing for Holland. We're looking more on the north side of Holland. Those folks there that could be contending with this tornado warning, at least this particular rotation being indicated on the map here. As for what we're looking for 9:06 in the evening at Hudsonville, and again 9:08 for Georgetown Township. If this continues its momentum and it carries on its characteristics as it progresses eastward into Ottawa County. So again, this is what we're really concerned about, because we're now starting to notice some very tight rotation right in here. This is really tightening up, Sam and Amber.
Yeah.
This is becoming pretty clear.
It looks like this is going to be moving into the area around Port Sheldon Street, Butternut Drive, Riley Street, just north of Holland, just north of Zeeland. So between West Olive and Holland is really where we're looking at this coming on shore within the next couple of minutes. It's honestly almost there at this point.
This is heading just to the north of Park Township, Lakeshore Drive. This is going to be heading just to the north of 152nd Avenue. Here is Butternut Drive. This is right in there. This is what we're looking at right here. You see the closely together couplet of the green and red shading here together, indicating we have inbound and outbound winds from the radar site that are closely together, indicating there is a lot of spin and this portion of the atmosphere just to the west of the lakeshore, north of Holland, more specifically north of Park Township. So this is pretty much this, and this is the latest radar scan. This storm is booking it at 55 miles per hour to the east. So this is likely making its way onshore within pretty much right about now. So Lakeshore Drive, here's Butternut Drive, 152nd Avenue. There's US 31. Riley Street is right there. So this again is all pressing eastward in a very quick note.
I also want to note that it was mentioned that just along that line in general, anywhere from South Haven up towards Whitehall, water spouts will be possible as this line is moving through.
Yeah,
there is a severe thunderstorm warning for
just look at how we have these individual notches being detected along the bow echo itself. I kind of want to get back to radar just to give everyone a perspective here of what we're looking at broadly. There's Muskegon, there's Grand Haven, there's Holland, and as you go farther south, there's Saugatuck, and you can see how this bow echo is pressing into our lakeshore communities. There's a little bit of a loop over the last hour, and this is really moving at a quick pace. So for those that are in Muskegon, Ottawa, and Allegan County, this is the time to utilize that severe weather plan, specifically for those in Ottawa County, near and north of Holland, near Park Township. This is the time right now to be heading towards your basement, to the most interior portion of your home. This is what we need to be looking at over the next 5 to 10 minutes. What we really need to be taking seriously here with this line coming through. At the very least, this line, Amber, is likely producing 70 to 80 mile per hour winds.
Yes, yeah, we're going to be seeing some really strong winds out of this line with a severe thunderstorm warning in place for Muskegon, Ottawa, and Allegan counties. So all three counties underneath a warning for severe thunderstorms moving through with a considerable threat, which means that those straight line winds up to 70 miles an hour do look to be possible. It also includes hail that could be up to about 3/4 of an inch in diameter, but especially wanting to mention that tornado threat. I also want to mention too that we just had a severe thunderstorm warning come in for Van Buren County, so now you have been included in that severe thunderstorm warning as well. If we're able to switch over to Max 2, then I can show that a little bit clearer. So we have this severe thunderstorm warning that is in place for Van Buren County as well now. So this is something that we've already seen for Muskegon, Ottawa, Allegan counties, now also including Van Buren County. This remains in effect until 9:45. This includes areas such as Decatur, Pawpaw, South Haven. So we are going to be seeing, as these storms move onshore, still the possibility for some really strong winds. As I would especially say on the southern flank of this bow echo, strong winds look to be the main concern, but then of course we do have that concern with tornadic activity a little bit further north where wind shear looks to be very present. That is especially the case for Ottawa County. That's where we're seeing that tornado warning in effect right now. So for those of you that are north of Holland, really between Holland and West Olive, that's where it looks like we are seeing some of the strongest winds at this point. Yeah, velocity certainly showing off some really strong winds, some really well-defined rotation as well. Looks like this is actually having a bit of trouble on my end.
Yeah, this is, we're just going to try to push up here, radar here. Yeah, you can really just go, Amber, you can go back to reflectivity for right now. I'll try to solve that out. Right. But this is all part of the bow echo that is coming through West Michigan. This is a very impactful storm, a impactful severe thunderstorm working through our lakeshore county, specifically right now, Ottawa County at the apex of this bow. This is nothing to mess around with. This is a very strong storm impacting near and north of Holland, and especially with the rotation that is potentially going to cycle over the coming minutes. This is going to be right around Holland. This is going to be a little bit northward towards Port Sheldon, basically between Holland and Port Sheldon. That is the specific area to really take note of. For those that are in Zeeland, you have a couple minutes at most before these strong wind gusts come knocking on your doorstep, and potentially we could see rotation work its way back into the picture and continue this tornado potential. We still have a tornado warning ongoing for Ottawa County until 9 believe 9:30 here in the evening. So that is what we really need to make note of. For those that are watching and you're wondering about the hockey game, we are going to continue being in this split box as this tornado warning is in effect. We are not going away from this, for those that are wondering. The hockey game is going to be in your right box. You'll be able to watch it. We are going to be on the left box in terms of watching our coverage here over the next 30 minutes. So that is something we just want to be mindful of, that we do have this tornado warning in play from the National Weather Service for Ottawa County. And you can see how this line is pushing on shore here in West Olive Township, Holland. That's where we're seeing those strongest wind gusts.
Yeah, it also looks like there was a report that came in, tree down at Grant Avenue in Grand Haven, just west of the railroad tracks. So that's just one of the reports that's coming. I think we're gonna start to see a lot more of those, hopefully after the storms have passed. If you are in these areas, your life is far more important than any type of report. So just make sure to stay inside, stay in your basement, away from windows. After the storms have passed, that's when you can look at reports, but not until then.
Real quick, if we can, if you have anything on Max 2 that you wanted to showcase real quick.
I don't have anything specifically right now.
So we have Max 1 located on our screen here. There's Max, there's, I believe, Max 1. And so we have Zeeland here. And this is the timing of this storm is coming right on shore for Zeeland. We have Crockery Township at 8:59, so that's about 4 minutes from now for those that are wondering about times with the strongest portion of this bow echo. We have Allendale at 9 in the evening, 9:04 for Coopersville, 9:05 for Hudsonville. So within the next 10 minutes or so, we are going to see the strongest portion of this storm work in your community. For those watching in Coopersville and Hudsonville, if this continues its way, Marne at 9:08, Walker at 9:11, and then at 9:14 in the Wyoming area. So that is what we'll be looking at as this half hour progresses over the next half hour.
Yeah. I'm seeing a couple of these little almost ripples. It's really notches along the line for Ottawa County, especially in that same area that's north of Holland, really between Holland and West Olive. For briefly, we're able to switch over to Max 2 just so that I can kind of show some of those
There we
spots.
go. Right in there, you can really see those notches that Amber is indicating up and down Ottawa County. So stretching from Zeeland, we're looking a little bit closer towards just to the east of West Olive Township. Yeah, you can really see these individual areas, and we're continuing this tornado warning as well.
Looks like, switch back over to that.
Just want to give an update on the tornado warning again for Ottawa County. We have at 8:55, so that was about 2 minutes ago. Our timing now is at 8:57. Severe thunderstorms capable of producing both tornadoes and extensive straight line wind damage were located along a line eastward extending from 6 miles west of Allendale to near Zeeland, moving eastward at 50 miles per hour. The main impact here is of radar indicated rotation along with straight line winds. That combination. So even if we don't have any confirmed tornado out of this, this is still producing strong to damaging straight line winds. The impact here, flying debris could be dangerous to those caught without shelter. That is why it's so important to utilize that severe weather plan we talk about, heading to your basement, putting as many walls between yourself and the outside of your home. Yeah, and it does appear that folks at the Ottawa County Emergency Management appears that they have been noticing a rain-wrapped wall cloud south and west of 128th and Lake Michigan Drive. So that was just something that was just shared with us of just looking at that picture there. So we do have some confirmation that we have a rotating updraft, Amber. A rain-wrapped wall cloud that could be potentially producing a tornado, at least at some point could have produced a tornado in western Ottawa County here.
We have a couple of counties that have now been included in our severe thunderstorm warning. So that now includes Kent and Berry counties. That will be lasting until 10 o'clock this evening.
So again, I want to switch it to Chief Meteorologist Samantha Jacks. She is alongside with us as well. Sam, what is the latest that you have been watching, what you have been observing over these past few minutes?
Chief Meteorologist Samantha Jacks, just kind of giving you an establishing shot of what's ongoing here. So currently in Ottawa County, we have an ongoing tornado warning. Right now, we are just seeing radar indicated tornado, but we are asking that at this point in time, if you are located anywhere to the east of the immediate lakeshore's edge, embedded within Ottawa County, that you are seeking shelter from this storm. That means that you are now headed down to your tornado location, your shelter location. If you have a basement, you are getting in it. If you have an interior room with no windows and no basement, that's going to be your next best bet. If you are questioning what the safe location is going to be, that's going to be a hallway, interior, away from windows. Right now, with this embedded powerful line of storms, there could be strong damaging winds extended along it. I've got some timestamps on here for you. 9:02 for Zeeland. Allendale, we're looking at 9:05. Coopersville, we're looking at 9:08. Hudsonville, we're looking at 9:11. Marne, we're looking at 9:13. So this is currently our ongoing tornado warning. It is going to remain in effect until 9:30. We need to be taking this very seriously at this point in time. There is no reason that you should not be seeking shelter from this storm. You need to stay indoors until the storm passes. As for when it comes to storm reports, we ask that you wait until the storm has completely passed. Now, in addition to our ongoing tornado warning, we also have now multiple severe thunderstorm warnings in effect. This includes Kent County, Allegan County, as well as Berry County and Van Buren County, even stretching up into portions still, of course, of Muskegon County. Now, all of these locations that are mentioned in this severe thunderstorm warning, you need to be thinking to yourself, what would I do if I was Ottawa County now underneath that current tornado warning? As these storms continue to bow off to the east, they're still holding on to a fair amount of strength as they do so. And so we're really encouraging you to, even though you're just underneath severe thunderstorm warnings, to have that plan in place. Because not only do you have severe thunderstorm warnings in effect, but you also currently have a tornado watch in effect. What exactly does a tornado watch mean? A tornado watch means that now is the time to have a plan in place in case a tornado warning has been issued. Of course, we are currently underneath that tornado warning right now in Ottawa County. Let's go ahead and take a look inside the storm. What we're looking at here is to find just little areas, little notches of rotation. And this is what the National Weather Service is noting here, right? We've got just these little notches right now on our radar that's indicating the potential for rotation. That's headed directly towards Zeeland right now, some of those notches. Continuing to progress its way towards Hudsonville. We're talking continuing to make its way towards the Allendale area. This is why this entire region of Ottawa County right now is actively underneath the tornado warning. If we take a look here at some of our different debris signatures to see if we can pick up, okay, so we just got our latest radar scan in. You can see that it's now pushed even further inland. It's continuing to make its way towards Hudsonville. So actually, those of you who are in West Olive, Holland, you actually are in the clear from this storm. You can come out of your shelter location. But those of you who are located to the east of that, you still need to be sheltering in place. Blake?
And Sam, some of the velocity data is indicating 70+ mile-per-hour winds on those strongest gusts there, just to the west of Hudsonville.
Just to the west of Hudsonville. So let's go ahead and zoom in here on what it is that Blake's talking about. We're talking about 70+ mile-per-hour wind gusts. Regardless if there's a tornado touching down on the ground, when you have wind strength of that capacity, it can cause there to be extensive damage relatable to that of tornadic activity. So this needs to be taken really seriously. We're going to go ahead and look inside the storm and see whether or not we are looking at any debris being lofted. That's something that would be indicative of tornadic activity on the ground. We're not necessarily seeing anything that totally jumps out at us in terms of debris potential at this point in time, but that's a factor that we will continue to monitor and look at. Going and taking a look inside the storm in terms of its, we call this vertically integrated liquid. And what exactly that means is taking a look to see if there's any hail embedded within these storms. Nothing that's screaming out a strong signature to me whatsoever that we're looking at hail inside the storm. And so we're going to keep monitoring that velocity map right now and making sure that we're not seeing any other indications of rotation on the map. I really think that those of you who are located right in this area. Let me go ahead and throw a track on this. Blake, Amber, do you guys have any street names in here? It's a little bit tiny on my screen.
Yeah,
for
I
me.
can see it. We've got Highland Drive, Byron Road, around Port Shelton Street as well. So that's actually somewhere that we were looking at further west, even with that rotation. So it's had a pretty easterly track on it. But 48th Avenue over towards 8th Avenue in Hudsonville, or just east of Hudsonville as well. Kennewa Avenue Southwest. And there we go too, around Jamestown Township.
So those are some of the different locations that we really, really need to be cautious of here. We've got M121, it looks like, continuing to the eastbound. We've got a little bit of a notch there. I-196, of course. Hudsonville, time is now to be in your basement sheltering from this storm. Jamestown Township, same goes to you. Of course, for those of you who are just joining us in our coverage, we are currently under an active tornado warning. Who is underneath this tornado warning right now? It is Ottawa County. Now, those of you in West Olive, those of you in Holland, those of you in Grand Haven, you are in the clear from this portion of the storm, and you can come out of your shelter location. Blake?
It's looking likely that a tornado warning will be extended into Kent County.
Okay, perfect. So thank you for that update. So it looks like as this line of storms continues to work its way off to the east, that we are potentially going to see the opportunity for a tornado warning to be extended into Kent County. That is giving you all a really, really good heads up that, hey, you need to head into that shelter location as quickly as possible. The time is now to pack up your things, head on downstairs into your basement. If you are located within Kent County, you can see the trajectory of this band continuing to work its way off to the east-northeast. And as it does so, it is going to enter into Kent County shortly here. So once that tornado warning is issued, you are going to make sure that you are immediately at that point in time to making your way down into your shelter location. We already can hear some heavy rainfall coming down here at the station out ahead of the leading line of this storm. Guys, do you have anything else to add? Anything new at this moment?
So far, it looks like that tornado warning has just been shrunk back to the eastern side of Ottawa County as it continues to travel east. And then, of course, how we are looking at that probability from the National Weather Service. They've said that they are looking at potentially extending that further east as well. So this would be heading towards the greater Grand Rapids area. Looks like you're looking at velocity there too, Sam.
Yeah, and still into noticing, Sam, Amber, that there are some pockets of wind here in excess of 60 miles per hour. And now with the closer proximity of this wind to the radar site at the Ford International Airport, that this is a good indication that these winds are making it down to ground level in almost its full capacity. So we are measuring winds via our velocity product here of 60 to almost 70 miles per hour, specifically for those that are just to the south of Hudsonville. There are some strong winds in the isolated pocket that could be approaching 70 plus miles per hour, and that is just to the south of Hudsonville. Yep, right along 196 at Chicago Drive, I believe. That is the kind of the corridor I'm noticing where the strongest pocket of wind is being located right now, along with that potential at times for a little bit of notching to occur, and we got to really watch for any embedded tornado that could occur. You kind of see that just to the north of Zeeland Township there, Sam. Kind of see that little notch that's trying to, that's kind of the area there that seems to be
There's our warning.
Okay, so you can hear that notification going off on all of our phones here at the Weather Center.
Well.
You can tell we are weather aware in this room. So ongoing tornado warning now has been issued for Kent County. This comes as a line of storms that we have been tracking all day long is continuing to progress off to the east-northeast at a pretty quick pace here. The latest tornado warning that has been issued for Kent County is remaining in effect until 9:45 this evening. This includes the major cities of Grand Rapids, Kentwood, and Wyoming. If you are located from Walker down to Byron Center, continuing all the way from Granton, Lowell, Alto, Ada, Cascade, Cutlerville, Comstock Park, we are asking that you immediately seek shelter from this storm. What does that mean? You are now headed to your basement if you have one. If you do not have a basement, we are asking that you head to an interior room, no windows. If you do not have an interior room with no windows, a hallway in the center of your house is going to be your next safest location. If you are located in a mobile home within this region, we ask that you get out of that mobile home at this point in time and go find your safest shelter location within Kent County. You still have a little bit of time before these storms arrive to your area that you could safely do so, especially if you're on the eastern half of Kent County. We ask that you get out of those mobile homes immediately. There's no safe location inside of one. So now we have 2 active tornado warnings in effect. This is both still for the eastern edge of Ottawa County and extending into portions of Kent County. Now, if you're in Belmont, Rockford, Sparta, you're not included inside this portion of the tornado warning. Those of you who are located Grand Rapids, Walker, Wyoming, Cascade, Ada, you all are included within the tornado warning at this point in time. You go ahead and pause things here.
Yeah, I just wanted to real quick just talk about the specific language of this tornado warning for Kent County, of course, until 9:45. At 9:07, severe thunderstorms capable of producing both tornadoes and extensive straight line wind damage were located along a line extending from near Jenison to near Jamestown, moving eastward at about 50 miles per hour. We do have history of damage, trees and wires down in and around the Zeeland area, according to a storm report verified from the National Weather Service, so that these storms, regardless of their tornado potential or not, are at least providing straight line wind damage. And of course, Sam, Amber, we saw that play out yesterday with some of those pockets of straight line winds. At the very least, we're seeing that again, but likely even stronger than yesterday's winds. But now we introduce that tornado risk because of the increase of spin in our atmosphere.
Yeah, absolutely. If we're able to take Max 2 over for just a second as well, I've got a track pulled up to show everybody when this storm, when this line of storms is going to be arriving to your doorstep, especially when we're talking about this tornadic cell. So Walker close to 9:13, Grand Rapids around 9:17, Kentwood also around 9:17. If you're in the Cascade area, 9:27. So that's about 17 minutes from now. Alto, 9:34, Lowell at 9:36. And that will continue to travel further off to the east as well. This is taking on a pretty strong easterly direction, not much else movement other than that. So there's a good chance that this is going to be heading towards the greater Grand Rapids area. It is going to be heading towards the greater Grand Rapids area very soon now. Only just less than 10 minutes now until it's going to be arriving into downtown.
And again, we still have a few additional severe thunderstorm warnings that were issued. It still remains in effect until 9:45 for Allegan, Ottawa, and Muskegon County. At least it appears to be the eastern edge of those counties. We also have a few other severe thunderstorm warnings for Barry County and broadly the rest of Kent County until 10 this evening for the hazard of 70-mile-per-hour winds. So we also have some of those severe thunderstorm warnings on top of the ongoing tornado warning for eastern Ottawa County and the central portion of Kent County, including the greater Grand Rapids area.
So at this point in time, if you're just joining us because you had that severe thunderstorm warning, tornado warning issued and triggered on your phone, we have 2 clusters of tornado warnings ongoing, both in Ottawa County and now extending into Kent County. It's actually clearing out of Ottawa County at this point in time. If you're in West Olive, if you are located in Holland, if you are located in Zeeland, you are safe to come out of your shelter location. But very quickly here, we are seeing this storm move at a very fast cadence. If you are located in Walker, Jenison, Grand Rapids, Cascade, Ada Township, Alto, Dutton, you need to be seeking shelter from this storm immediately. We have seen signs of damage at the surface, not necessarily an actual tornado that has been seen on the ground, but that does not mean that you shouldn't be taking this very, very seriously as these storms work into your area. If you're hearing those outdoor sirens go off in Kent County, this is a really good reminder that those do happen county-wide. And so that does not necessarily mean that those of you in the northern flank of Kent County are underneath this tornado warning. You are underneath the severe thunderstorm warning, but the actual tornado warning is confined kind of to this central portion, stretching all the way from Walker all the way down to Byron Center at this point in time. It's going to continue to progress towards US 131. And so we are asking that you make sure that you're seeking shelter from the storm. Let's go ahead and take a close look inside the storm itself here so that we can see what type of damage, what type of rotation is potentially ongoing within this system. It looks like the storm itself, at least the part that could potentially contain little notches of rotation embedded within it, is still juxtaposed in Ottawa County, which means you have tons of lead time right now in Kent County to be able to get to that shelter location, to find your way and make your way into the basement. I'm really quickly going to run through some cameras here so that we can see what is going on outside. Of course, our station is located in Walker, so we are one of the locations that is currently underneath that tornado warning. With that being said, anyone that's in the building right now at WZZM, if you feel as though you would like to do so, thank you so much for putting Walker up for me. If you feel as though you can, I would ask that you guys go ahead and head on to the basement as well, seeking the same and following the same protocol that we encourage everybody else to. So go ahead, if you're in the station and you're able to do so, grabbing your laptops, grabbing your gear, and heading on down to the basement until this tornado warning has passed, but continue to stay with us. We're not necessarily seeing rotation directly over the station, so those of you who are in the director's booth at this point, you guys are still safe to stay, but we will continue to watch that really, really closely. We have 2 ongoing areas right now of tornado warnings in effect, including Ottawa and Kent County. The main line that we're monitoring closely here continues to push inland. This looks a little bit different than I want it to. Let's see here. Let me click down just one more graphic. There we go. It's the one that we want to be looking at. This line of storms moving off to the east, making its way. I can hear the tornado sirens going off outside the station right now, so those are working well here. Wyoming, it's time to seek shelter from this storm. Kentwood, time to seek shelter from the storm. Cutlerville, Grand Rapids, the city of Grand Rapids needs to be sheltering at this point in time as we continue to see this powerful line of storms track off to the east. This tornado warning remains in effect until 9:45 this evening. Now, for those of you in Ottawa County, you have almost cleared completely out of this warning. The National Weather Service has not yet necessarily dropped your warning. But those of you in Allendale are now in the clear. Zeeland, as mentioned, you are in the clear at this point. Nunavut, we're not concerned about you underneath the tornado warning. Hudsonville, you most likely at this point in time are behind the worst of the storm as that leading edge is starting to progress its way into Kent County. Blake, Amber, is there anything that you guys are noting over there? Any new information?
Nothing super new. I definitely just want to note that I feel like a lot of that rotation that we're seeing, it's still fairly broad at this point, seemingly, but that would be closer to the Wyoming area. So just as you were noting, Sam, I think that Wyoming, Kentwood, Cutlerville, south side of the city, those are all going to be very important areas to get to your basement right now, away from any windows, really sheltering in place and making sure that you're staying safe from these storms. I'm going to take a look here. Still severe thunderstorm warnings in place for multiple other counties as well, with a considerable threat. So even if you are not under the tornado warning, you still can anticipate winds that could be up to 70 miles an hour. So everybody wants to make sure that they are really paying attention to these storms, especially when they're going to be arriving to your doorstep. And for Kent County, especially the western side of Kent County, that's imminent. It's in the next couple of minutes now.
Yeah, and so we've added, of course, that considerable tag, tornado possible, to our ongoing concern in Allegan County. And so while not necessarily underneath a tornado warning, you do have a decent band of strong winds that are tracking towards you. When we tag something with a considerable threat, I believe it's 75+ mile per hour wind gusts that are embedded within that storm. So for those of you, Dorr, Wayland, Allegan, Hastings, some of the areas, Otsego, that were hit with the last batch of tornadoes that came through West Michigan, you are now seeing this strong line of damaging winds progressing towards your area. And of course, we are still really monitoring closely at this point in time Kent County.
The severe thunderstorm warning for Muskegon County has been canceled. So for those that are closer to the lake shore, the bulk of this risk is starting to come to an end. Still, obviously, some heavy rain, maybe some thunder and lightning, but the severe thunderstorm criteria has come to an end. Also had a measured wind gust at 88th and Riley Street in Holland, measured 47 miles per hour at about 9 o'clock. So that was a wind report there from one of the Skywarn members of Ottawa County.
And Blake, feel free if you want to jump in and drive on this tornado warning in Kent County. You're more than welcome to.
Yeah, biggest thing is just noticing, between south of Granville, south of Wyoming, where you guys have been on top of, that is where our main area of not only just that tornado potential is at, but more broadly, just that straight line wind damage. Regardless if this could spin up and produce a tornado, we have that straight line wind perspective of this storm, kind of the bowing of this line. That is where we're seeing the strongest descent of wind that's rushing outward. And that is why for those near Wyoming, near Kentwood, as you push a little bit towards Cascade Township, that's where the radar site is located, the Ford International Airport. This is heading in your direction. So if you're along 28th Street, for example, in that vicinity east of Wyoming towards Cascade, where that intersects with 96, this is the time to head to your safest spot of your home, the occupancy that you might be residing in, because this storm is moving at a rapid pace at about 50 to 55 miles per hour and is going to be on top of you within the next minute or two, because we're looking at a radar imagery, and that still takes some time for the new one to come in. So that is what we are going to be really forcing here in our messaging.
Yeah, it sounds like we've just gotten another report of trees and wires down at Cutler and Cedar Street in Allegan, Michigan. So if you are in Allegan proper, that is where we're seeing some of those trees and wires down. Honestly, I've seen a lot of those reports come through the Zeeland area, Holland, but we are tracking a very active situation. So trees and wires down absolutely is something that's been left behind by these storms so far. But as these are traveling into Kent County now, we really want to make sure that we are staying weather aware, staying on top of these storms.
And you can see here, this is kind of the northern extent of that line. So right in here in the greater Grand Rapids area is our concern, a little bit of notching taking hold in that line, and then this continues southward. And you just mentioned Allegan. Well, they just went through part of that line there, so that coordinates perfectly of where those strongest winds were located. So Sam's putting a track on here, and yeah, Grand Rapids, it's pretty much right overhead. Cascade at 9:30, so about 10 minutes from now. Lowell at 9:38 if this holds its momentum. Hastings at 9:44. Ionia would be a little bit later, such as Portland as you're pushing farther east of US 131, closer to the 10 o'clock hour. But for those that are along US 131, really now a little bit east of US 131, this storm is right overhead, and it is now time to just give yourself some time, give yourself about 15 to 30 minutes to let this pass by, and then you can be mostly in the clear as this night goes on. But this is what we're going to be looking at over the next half hour or so. These communities right here, Cascade, Lowell, Hastings, Ionia, Portland, into the Charlotte area as the next hour goes by.
Yeah, it is important to note too that we're seeing where we have this bowing segment, this is where the severe weather is, and this is where the severe weather concern is. But really elsewhere in West Michigan, we're seeing rain, but that severe potential does look to be now out of Ottawa County for the most part at least. But Kent, Allegan, Barry counties, that's where we're tracking it for the time being at very least. A little bit further north of Grand Rapids, not necessarily seeing too much of a concern, and that's what we've been talking about throughout much of this evening, is that most of this concern is along and south of I-96.
Yeah, and so that's something that we're noting. We are getting some images in out of Allegan County that look to be pretty ominous. I would suggest at this point in time, if you are to the east of the Wayland area, that it couldn't hurt to seek shelter from this storm. Shelbyville, Orangeville, that US 131 corridor southbound stretching along Allegan County and then making its way towards Barry County. I just don't like some of what I'm seeing in terms of the images that have been set, not necessarily though that it's reflecting on our velocity map, and we don't have an ongoing tornado warning in those locations, but I do just really want us to be extra cautious within this zone, just based off of some images that have been sent to the National Weather Service. Otherwise, we do have our ongoing tornado warning in effect for right now Kent County. Now, the closer that this gets to the radar site, the more difficult it's going to be for us to necessarily analyze rotation embedded within the storm. It becomes kind of a particularly tricky situation to be able to figure out exactly what's happening when it's sitting right over the radar site itself. But nonetheless, with the ongoing tornado warning, we need to make sure that we are staying in our shelter location. Now, if you are just joining us, thank you for tuning in. We are currently in a severe weather situation. And so I'm going to just kind of reset here and go from the beginning of what's ongoing in our forecast region right now so that everybody can feel fully aware of what's ongoing, as people sometimes tune in a little bit later once the storm has arrived to their doorstep. I want to begin with the fact that those of you in Ottawa County who were underneath a tornado warning for an extensive period of time, you are no longer underneath a concern for any ongoing tornadoes. So if you are seeking shelter from that, you can go ahead and head on up from their shelter location. The main area of concern at this point in time is the ongoing tornado warning that's in effect in Kent County until 9:45 this evening. These storms are moving off to the east at a trajectory of about 55 miles per hour. Embedded within this storm is our ongoing tornado warning. Let's see here. Why is there a little extra red block there, guys? I just want to make sure that I'm not missing something,
Nope,
a new
nope.
update.
Here, I got you right here. There you go.
Okay, just making sure that it wasn't some sort of new update that I was missing. So we've got our ongoing tornado warning of this line of storms that's stretching from Comstock Park all the way to Dutton, that's making its way towards Cascade, towards Ada Township, towards Lowell. So it's in the progression of an easterly track moving at about 55 miles per hour that we need to make sure we are seeking shelter from this storm. What's the timing of this? Those of you in Cascade, we're looking at about 9:28 this evening that you could potentially be experiencing either strong damaging winds or small signs of rotation within the atmosphere. Ada Township, you're looking at 9:30. Those of you who are in Cannonsburg, your time frame is 9:32. Alto, looking at 9:35, Lowell, 9:37, and those of you who are located in Granton, you're looking at around 9:38. In addition to our ongoing tornado warning in Kent County, we also have multiple ongoing severe thunderstorm warnings. The newest severe thunderstorm warning that was just issued moments ago is for Kalamazoo County. This remains in effect until 10:30 this evening as this line of storms continues to progress off to the east, known for causing tree damage as well as for having some strong winds embedded within it. We have now dropped the western edge of Allegan County from the ongoing severe thunderstorm warning. Ottawa County is in the clear. Muskegon County is in the clear. Kent County is still sheltering in place from its ongoing tornado warning. The eastern edge of Allegan County still placed underneath that considerable tag. What does that mean? 70+ mile per hour wind gusts could be embedded within this line of storms as it tracks at a pace of 55 miles per hour off to the east. Eventually, of course, this is going to clear out of Allegan County and enter into Barry County, which is why those of you in Hastings are also underneath a severe thunderstorm warning with that considerable tag. So you can see we have an expansive amount of alerts. If I pause our radar right now, it's really the Boeing structure embedded within this line of storms that has our attention, because anytime we start to see this Boeing structure, we start to see this arc, right, in our radar, that is typically indicative of really strong winds that are mixing down to the surface. And so not only are we seeing that reflected on radar, but we're seeing that reflected on velocity as well. When these storms moved through Ottawa County, there were several notches embedded within them. And when we say that, we just mean there were several little signs of rotation embedded within the storm. And so that is why we continue forward with the ongoing tornado warning through Kent County. At this point in time, if you are located in Kent County, let me zoom in here on the warning to let you know who no longer needs to shelter in place and who still is underneath that shelter in place. Sorry, my graphics are just buffering a little bit on me here. Again, as we continue on with this warning, and it gets, there we go, now it wants to work with me, and it gets a little bit closer to the radar site, some of our pictures and our imagery will get a little bit messier because of that. So here you can see that those of you in Walker, Hudsonville, even Byron Center at this point in time, Cutlerville, Kentwood, City of Grand Rapids, kind of on the backside of this system now. Maybe give it another 5 minutes, and then you should be clear to head out of that shelter location. Our attention now is going to turn to the eastern side of this system, which is moving towards Ada, which is moving towards Cascade, Cannonsburg, Lowell, and Alto. That's across the 96 corridor, and the storm itself has made its way across the US 131 corridor. Guys, if you have been looking at velocity, anything that you're seeing new there?
I'm certainly seeing some really strong winds north of Grand Rapids still through the Comstock Park area, extending a little bit further east as well. It always gets really messy when we're kind of in this region.
Yeah, a few pockets of some stronger wind near Comstock Park. Very isolated in nature, it appears, Sam and Amber, but at least a few pockets of maybe some stronger winds reaching the surface here. This would be a little bit north of Knapp, just to the west of I-96. So for those that are familiar with Knapp Road or Knapp Street, this is the northeast side of Grand Rapids. This goes upwards to 96 as it meets up near Plainfield Avenue towards Comstock Park. Just to the north of 3 Mile. You got M44, also the belt line right there. That's where some of those strongest storms are heading towards, at least to the north and east of Knapp and the belt line. So Knapp's Corner is right about here, and there's Knapp's Corner right about there. Oop,
we have an additional tornado warning.
Oh, we have an additional tornado warning. So this one is for Barry and Ionia County now. So this is extending, you can tell here real quickly, this is now the southeastern corner of Kent County, south and east of the radar site. Radar site's back up here. Here's southeast corner of Kent County. Here's Barry County, the northern half, and then the southwestern half of Ionia County. This is for radar indicated rotation here with this, and I would assume that it's going to be because of this little pocket of rotation that's near Caledonia right now. I guarantee that's what it's going to be.
I'll try to pull that up for you as well.
So for folks that are in Caledonia, Middleville, Hastings, Lake Odessa, Clarksville, for example, all those surrounding areas, that is where we're going to be. It's time to utilize that severe weather plan. It is time to head to your basement, put as many walls between you and the outside of the residence that you are in right now. That is what we need to be doing now with this tornado warning in effect until 10:15 for the southeastern corner of Kent County. This is a little bit of an extension of that tornado warning for Kent County, and then into southwestern Ionia County and northern Barry County. This is from at 9:28, severe thunderstorms. This is the same messaging that we've been talking about for the last hour now, is that there are severe thunderstorms capable of producing both tornadoes and extensive straight line wind damage that is now along a line extending from near Caledonia to near Middleville. And this is moving eastward at 45 miles per hour. This is radar indicated rotation. If we can take max 2 for a second, this is where we are indicating some of the rotation. Amber's got it up right in here. Yeah, you can see that rotation that is heading a little bit right towards Caledonia right now. This is broad rotation, I would say, but it warrants, based on the structure that we have seen in some of these strongest storms since it's worked back to the lakeshore, that this is the warrant. This is why the National Weather Service has gone ahead and issued this tornado warning for southeastern Kent County, northern Barry, southwestern Ionia County. And you can see that that's heading right towards Ionia right now, or I mean, I should say Caledonia right now, that broad rotation.
I will say too, with this area of rotation right around Caledonia being so close to the radar site, we've talked about this a few times now, how things can get a lot messier the closer that you get to the radar site, just because there can be a lot more noise, ground noise. So seeing any amount of rotation, of course, we want to take it very seriously.
Absolutely. So again, we have an ongoing tornado warning in effect just to the south of Kent County now. It has been expanded into portions of Barry County. It's also been expanded into portions of southwestern Ionia County and southeastern Kent County. This lasts until 10:15 this evening. We are asking that you seek shelter from this location. What does that mean? Moving to your basement or an interior room. Of course, you want to be in a sturdy building. And so if you are to the east of this and you still have time, we do ask that at this point in time, if you're in something like a mobile home or inside of a car, that you are immediately seeking shelter from this storm. Again, the storm itself is moving to the east at about 45 miles per hour with strong damaging winds. We have at this point only seen radar indicated rotation. So with that being said, not necessarily seeing a tornado that is confirmed touchdown on the ground, but we are seeing, again, radar indicated signs of rotation embedded within the storm. The biggest thing of note is that if you are in Kent County or in those other counties that I listed, Ionia as well as Barry County, you need to be in your shelter location. Now this at this point is to the eastern edge of Kent County, not including places such as Walker, Wyoming, Kentwood, Cutlerville, Byron Center. At this point, the storm has passed those spots and is continuing to progress off to the east. And then of course, everybody along the lakeshore's edge is clear of this storm. Blake?
Yeah, just noticing some of that, just trying to pick up a little bit on this this tornado warned storm that's pushing to the south and east of Caledonia right now through Middleville, just trying to get a few graphics set up here. But you can see that based on velocity that we are looking at a few pockets as the scan is trying to come in right about now. All right, there's our updated scan, right on time here. You can kind of tell there's just a few notches just trying to keep an eye on here. This is to the east of Caledonia, and then again just to the south and east of Middleville along M37, kind of Middleville to Hastings. Sam, can you just zoom in a little bit for some street names right here? I'm struggling with the mouse a little bit. That's my bad.
It's getting a little humid in here.
Yeah.
I think that's why. Getting a little sticky.
I'm kind of all over the place here. But again, this is one particular notch that we're kind of keeping an eye on. You can kind of see where some of that inflow is trying to come in, and then you have the outflow of this storm. So meeting some of that broad rotational aspect of the storm. And so this is M179 right here. There's M37 Yankee Springs is located just about right there. So this is where it's located currently. If it continues its path, and it's generally to the east, I would really say for those in the Hastings area, if you have not already gone ahead and started to utilize that severe weather plan, I would do it now. Just to be on the safe side, we do not have any confirmation of a tornado at all right now with this storm, but we want to be on the safe side of things. And I think that's the key here, is that for those in Hastings with this storm in the general proximity where it's going to be traveling over the next 15 minutes or so, if you're near Hastings, and especially just a little bit north of Hastings, there's Heath Road, there's West State Road for those that are familiar in the Hastings area. Yeah, you don't have a lot of time here. This is traveling at about 50 miles per hour, almost 940. So you got about 5 minutes. This is your time right now to head to the lowest part of your home, the residency that you may be in, the basement, putting as many interior walls between you and the outside of your home. And here's the other notch that we're talking about. This is now east of Caledonia. At the very least, you know, guys, this is probably producing some pockets of strong to damaging winds, straight line winds.
Absolutely.
So it's just a matter of, you know, are we getting enough rotation, enough spin in our atmosphere to support a tornado that could be on the ground. As of now, we do not have any of that confirmation, but just the look on radar, you can see where some of these notches are trying to develop out ahead of the line, indicating some of that broad rotation. Again, one near Hastings, and then another that is now east to Caledonia. That would be heading into western Ionia County. This is going to be heading just a little bit south of Alto. This is to the south and west of Clarksville. So for those that are near Clarksville, Lake Odessa, anyone in between right here along M50 to the west of Lake Odessa, this is the time to, again, be in your utilized plan. Now, this is a little messy here on our debris signature here.
I think so too, Blake.
That looks a little messy to me.
If you are located in Hastings, just to the north of Hastings, within a few miles, you need to get to your shelter location.
Yeah, this is the time to utilize, and also the Weather Service, by the way, this is a likely tornado debris signature to the east of Caledonia.
Okay, let me go back to that.
Yep, this is right here. So for those that are
south of 96.
Yep, south of I-96, this is right here.
Okay, so if you are located in Clarksville,
this is Drew Road right here.
Yep.
Nash Highway, Campbell Township. This is the time we need to utilize our severe weather plan. Can't stress it enough. We have likely a tornado debris signature with this ongoing tornadic supercell that is to the east of Caledonia, to the east of Alto. This is heading towards Ionia County, Clarksville, Lake Odessa, anyone in between here, even for those that are in Saranac right now. It is time to utilize your severe weather plan because this is likely an ongoing tornado, or at least has been a tornado on the ground. We have some rotation that has been really notable over the last 5 to 10 minutes, and starting to notice that on our debris signature that we likely have some debris being lofted into our skies based on what radar is detecting there. And we're confirming that with some of the lead meteorologists at the National Weather Service as well. So this is not, we are confident in what we do, but we also have that confirmation from some very fine folks at the National Weather Service that are looking at these same storms right now out of Grand Rapids. So this is what we need to be watching. This particular supercell, this tornadic storm that is to the east of Caledonia. And then, guys, we just talked about it. I still think, Sam, you guys were looking at that debris signature down just to the south and east of Middleville towards Hastings. That looked a little messy as well. So we have these two ongoing areas of concern, especially to the east of Caledonia. This is southeastern Kent County. For those that are in Lake Odessa, you only have about, I would say a couple minutes. This is it to utilize that plan with this ongoing tornadic thunderstorm.
All right, so they've reconfined here, Blake, our tornado warning.
Okay.
Oh, it looks like we have now confirmed the tornado. Amber, you want to grab that sheet for us?
Yeah, it looks like we do have an additional severe thunderstorm warning with that considerable tag attached to it for Ionia County, and then extending down a little bit further south. Let's see here.
I saw it pop up here for here it is.
This is it right here, yeah.
The confirmed tornado is. Okay, so at this point in time, we still have a couple active tornado warnings, including the eastern edge right now of Kent County, extending into Berry County and extending as well into Ionia County. If you are in the surrounding areas of this polygon in Kent County, including the city of Grand Rapids, Walker, Byron Center, Rockford, Belmont, Granton, Cannonsburg, we're not concerned about you. At this point in time, you're no longer needing to seek shelter.
Sam, real quick, at 9:35, the confirmed tornado was located near Freeport, 10 miles north and west of Hastings. So I think we're going to go back down to that southern one right here. There it is. There's our notch right there.
Yep.
This is it right here, folks. So we also have the one that's east of Caledonia. We've been talking about that one for the last couple minutes, but this is now a confirmed tornado as well to the north of Hastings. This is M43. This is all traveling eastward. You can see where the inflow is coming in. There's the outflow. There's your rotation. That's where we have that confirmed tornado now. That is radar confirmed. We are now past sunset, so this is getting harder to see from any observers that are trying to look at these storms. This is radar indicated. This is a radar confirmed tornado, just based on the debris signature, and likely this is the same thing that was to the east of Caledonia as well. So this is what we're going to be watching as this stretch goes on over the next 10 to 15 minutes, specifically right in here. This is Hastings. This is in Berry County. This is what we are really concerned about, that we have an ongoing confirmed tornado via radar because of the debris signature that's ongoing. Yeah, there it is. Thanks so much, Sam. This is a really important look here of what is going on north of Hastings right now. This is debris being lofted up. You can tell the difference here. Anything that's kind of in this magenta coloring, those are meteorological items such as rain, maybe some hail, mostly in the way of rain. Regardless, anytime you have anything that's different in color, such as these shades of blue, that is indicating non-meteorological objects, such as tree limbs, shingles, anything that is non-meteorological. That is the difference in that product right there. So that is what we're looking at near and north of Hastings. And you guys, you look at this, you can really see the hook out ahead of it.
So what I want, Blake, really fast to go over with everybody is who needs to be seeking shelter right now. Of course, we've got a couple areas of ongoing tornado warnings, but if you are, I'm sorry, sometimes this font is very small.
So this is State Road right here. This is Coates Grove Road. Barber Road is north-south oriented. Also M43, if you're along M43 to the east. If you're east of M43, north of Hastings, this is the time to take shelter. This is Coates Grove Road. There is Woodland Road, that is north-south oriented, just south of Woodland Township. This is the time to take shelter. We have a radar confirmed tornado just to the north of downtown Hastings right now. This is all pressing eastward at about 40 to 50 miles per hour. So this is the time to be very aware of what is going on and to make those necessary steps to head to the safest spot of your home, wherever that may be, into your basement, the most interior spot of your house. That might be an interior closet. That could be a bathroom per se. You want to put as many walls between yourself and the outside of your home. This is, again, just north of Hastings. This is what we are looking at right here. There's the debris signature. There's two separate debris signatures. That's still the northern.
Near Clarksville.
I know. I want to make sure we're keeping an eye on this one that's moving into Ionia County, just to the south of the 96 corridor near Clarksville. It does look like we are seeing another debris signature Heading, of course, to the east still at about 45 miles per hour, West Clarksville Road, Jordan Lake Road, Odessa Township, Jordan Lake Road, again to mention, the major expressways, and actually this extends all the way down through the Hastings area as well. It's going to be M66. It's headed towards the M66 corridor in both portions of Ionia County, as well as stretching down towards Berry County.
There it is right there.
And then there's that second signature of debris, which is pretty broad, even to the south of Hastings somewhat.
Yeah, even south of Hastings. And this might be just some of
little
that
bit of
really
feedback.
lofted up in the atmosphere by now, but this is still seems to be just to the north of Hastings. That seems to be the primary rotation right in there.
I do want to note too just how bright the colors are even in the areas that aren't seeing rotation. Even in those spots where you're maybe not seeing rotation at all, we're still going to see winds that could be up to about 70 miles an hour. That's why we are seeing that considerable threat that's attached to those severe thunderstorm warnings in place still through Ionia County and over into Eaton County as well. But yeah, these two areas of rotation does look maybe a little broader around Hastings, but northern side of the city looks to be where it's at its worst.
We still need to have a close eye on this one that has been heading eastward of Caledonia and Alto. That one still hasn't been confirmed, correct?
Correct.
Okay, so this is still radar indicated, but we've been looking at this one and that's been showing some signs, in our opinion.
Let me really quickly zoom out. It keeps going back to this. Let me really quickly zoom out here and kind of give everybody a broad view of what's ongoing in our area, because we have kind of refined some of the tornado locations. And so if you are, at this point, most of Kent County is excluded from any concerns, but we are still looking at just the eastern edge of Kent County, and then of course stretching down through the northern flank of Berry County and into Ionia County. These are going to be our main areas of concern. Allegan County, you are still underneath the severe thunderstorm warning, but you are not underneath that tornado warning. There is going to be kind of two areas that we're monitoring really closely embedded within these storms that not only have had both radar confirmed tornadic activity, but also, here we go, let me zoom in on this, radar indicated tornado. Just got a new update in from the National Weather Service. And it looks like we are headed towards the Lake Odessa area. Everything's moving pretty quickly, guys, so make sure that you are heeding these warnings.
And real quick, Sam or Amber, can we go back to just near Clarksville just to showcase some of the wind aspect that's up there?
Sorry.
No, you're good. Right in here, right in here. These are some strong winds being detected right now. In fact, these are some winds that could be possibly 70 to 80 miles per hour.
Absolutely.
Right
We're starting to see a lot of Boeing headed towards Lake Odessa as well. Not necessarily rotation, but a lot of times once we start to see that happen, we can end up getting even stronger winds at the surface.
Yes.
So tornadic thunderstorm, which prompted the warning, has moved out of the areas, and they have canceled the tornado warning for portions of Kent County. So that was our latest update. Just wanted to make sure we touched on what the National Weather Service has just issued for us. And so, so now Kent County, you are completely excluded from this tornado warning. The main areas that we are watching is a line stretching from Clarksville down to Hastings and headed towards Lake Odessa. We have seen a little bit of signature of debris potential within the storm. When we look at that, that means that there is the potential that something has been lofted up into the air in some of our previous radar scans. And we're continuing to kind of see maybe a weak signature.
Yeah, it doesn't look as clear cut anymore, but I still want to really focus that Lake Odessa wind sampling right there. Some of the other apps that we can use here is kind of indicating up to 80 miles per hour here, right in this pocket, right to the east of the Nash Highway, south of Clarksville. So if you're in Lake Odessa right now, you want to treat this as a tornado warning very seriously, because this is some strong straight line winds at the very least. There's M50, there's Musgrove Highway, M66 is right here. So this is all traveling eastward at probably 50 some miles per hour. You only have a couple minutes at most if you are near and especially north of Lake Odessa, because this is all traveling eastward. You can see the bright coloring here. Those are the outbound winds away from the Ford International Airport. That's back over here. And so you want to respect how strong some of these winds are. This is a localized pocket of wind, but this is likely producing winds of up to 70 to 80 miles per hour. Right in here to the north of Lake Odessa right now, just to the south of Clarksville. So that is one specific area. And just real quick, Sam and Amber, if you want to go down that line, just want to see what other, we still have that other notch that's still a little concerning to the east of Hastings.
Yeah, absolutely. That's making its way towards Castleton Township, as well as, again, heading towards that major expressway of M66. So if you're kind of located and juxtaposed between M43 and M66, those are the areas that we're monitoring really closely, both from Lake Odessa and then now to the east of Hastings. Vermontville is kind of just to the south and east of this location. Fortunately, this is getting a little bit rural, so we don't have a ton of city names to give you, but we do have some street roads. So if you are Castleton Township, State Road, Wellman Road, that's going to be one of the areas that's potentially impacted. We've got the little notch here to the north of that. So in between Coast Grove Road and then stretching all the way down through Castleton Road, that's going to be another area of rotation. Let's head back up to that strong cluster of winds from Clarksville all the way through Lake Odessa. Guys, we need you to really be heeding this warning, seeking shelter from these storms and staying in your shelter location. What exactly does that mean? I know I get that question just time and time again when we get into these storm case scenarios. Where should I be going? What should I be doing? What if I don't have a basement? Basement's always going to be our number one recommendation, right? That's never going to change. But if you do not have a basement, we are now looking at an interior room with no windows. We are looking at, if you don't have an interior room with no windows, your most interior hallway at this point. And a bathroom is always kind of a safer location as well. We want to find your most sturdy walls.
And some of the velocity data, real quick, is indicating, Sam and Amber, that there could be some gusts now over 80 miles per hour.
Absolutely. Once we start to get into these shades of white, that's right over Nash Highway at this point. Once these storms pass your spot, guys, we are going to be looking for some storm reports and damage reports, but we want you to wait, of course, until it's well past.
And regardless of what the tornado aspect of this is, when we're contending with 80 mile per hour straight line winds, we have to treat this as a very dangerous storm. So we're still going to be monitoring or watching out for that notch there, not really seeing any debris signature there, but it doesn't matter. We're still seeing straight line winds of likely 70 plus miles per hour, potentially in excess of 80 miles per hour, and see how this extends southward, this line all the way back now towards eastern Barry County. We'll be watching near the Gull Lake area. Gull Lake has been another area that has been in the close proximity of some broad rotation as well. There's Gull Lake there in northern Kalamazoo County, and there's been a little bit on that southern tail of that line, potentially a little bit of rotation as well. But this is all progressing very quickly to the east at about 50 miles per hour. We talked about this earlier this evening. These storms are going to move quickly. Kind of how yesterday evening storms were. This is kind of a similar story. These storms this evening are pressing through at a fast rate as well. So we have multiple areas where we are concerned about not only the tornado potential, but more broadly, the straight line wind perspective of these storms with how this line has had signatures of bowing. It is still somewhat bowing. Look at that.
Let's draw a broad track on things, Blake. Those areas that we've been talking about closely in Barry County, Ionia County, we are still monitoring you closely. Amber's keeping a close eye on the velocity map to make sure that we're not missing any new notches on things. But this is a really broad stretch of what's ongoing outside right now. And so we're going to continue to see this start to clear out of the West Michigan area, probably within the next 45 minutes. But we have some ongoing severe thunderstorm warnings, some ongoing tornado warnings, and this stretches in a line all the way from Belding down to Battle Creek.
Real quick, Sam, can we just go back to near Nashville in eastern Barry County and put the debris, firstly put the velocity aspect on and then the debris signature. I just want to take a sense here. So I'm just looking at this little notch right here and just wanted to see what our, oh, there it is. There, look at that. Look how fast this is moving.
Yeah,
so this is getting into, this is getting into Eaton County now, but I just wanted to look, this is east of M66.
Sorry.
Oh, you're good, you're good. I just wanted to see what our debris signature was here. Okay, it's a little bit broad, so that's good news there. Just seems like that was getting a little little tight there.
And for those of you who are looking for your hockey game programming, just know that once this does clear out of Ionia and Berry County here, we are going to switch you back to your programming. But we have to take this really seriously. Unfortunately, it's never fun when we have to cover up a game. Trust me, we don't want to as much as you don't want us to. But the fact of the matter is that everyone's safety is so much more important to us. This is what we do. And we want to make sure that you are staying very, very safe in this situation. We've got 2 ongoing tornado warnings in effect for Ionia as well as Berry County. Kent County, you are in the clear. Allegan County, you are in the clear. Western side of Berry County, you are also in the clear. You can see signified by these bright shades of red that are continuing to project towards the Lansing area. That's going to be the leading edge of this storm, and anything that's behind that leading edge, even those of you in Hastings, are in a safe spot. Vermontville, just north of Nashville, we have a little bit of a notch right now ongoing inside the storm, inside our velocity couplet there. And so that's going to be one of the areas that we watch for potential rotation. And then we still have this really, really strong wind signature and maybe a little bit of notching going on to the north of Lake Odessa, continuing to track towards Portland, just to the south of the I-96 corridor.
And Sam, if you go like a little bit further south.
Yes,
really
down towards Kalamazoo.
Yeah, exactly. Just north of Level Park there, I'm seeing that little bit of a notch. I know the National Weather Service already noted that just the orientation of the line, how strong wind shear is down in that direction. They've been looking at the potential, even as far back as Gull Lake when this storm was there, for maybe some broad rotation. And yeah, that notch definitely has my attention, that's for sure. But we're starting to see that around just north of Level Park. It's going to be headed towards Bedford Township not too long from now. This is just north of Battle Creek, so through that northern edge of Calhoun County there. So it looks like it's a little bit tricky to read, but I'm trying to see what road that is.
Yeah, some of these names can be so small. Let's see, we just got a new tornado warning. Maybe Amber was ahead of the game here. And
it looks like it's just extended up to the east.
Into the Eaton County region right now. So that's that main line of storms that we have been tracking, or the main cluster of storms that we've been tracking in terms of where they're expanding that. So yes, we are seeing this kind of start to begin to clear some, not completely out of our forecast area, but it's clearing somewhat out of our forecast area at this point in time. We have 2 ongoing areas of tornado warnings. That includes now the eastern edge, the southern edge of Ionia County and the eastern edge of Berry County, and then now is continuing to expand into Eaton and Clinton Township. This portion of the tornado warning has been expanded until 10:30 this afternoon, or this evening at this point. You can see we've got some heavy, intense rainfall embedded within this line of storms. If we go ahead and look at the velocity scan inside the storm as well, we're going to be able to see that this is some very powerful winds along the leading edge of the storm. Now, if you have received any storm damage and you are on the backside of this system, I'm talking Hastings, I'm talking Lake Odessa, Alto, Caledonia, you can text those reports to us. I'm going to say the number to you guys twice. So get your phones. You can text any severe weather reports to us at 616-559-1310. That is the best way to get us severe weather notifications, whether it's damage reports, whether it's you smiling post-storm, coming out of your basement. We love to get the reports from all of you. That phone number is 616-559-1310. It is listed at the bottom of your screen. Please, it really, really helps us to get those reports to the National Weather Service. It's also how we're able to get crews out to you faster to hopefully help clean up. And so, again, we're watching a couple areas along the leading edge of this storm that still are potentially producing some very severe elements, headed towards Vermontville, just to the north of Nashville at this point in time, and then still seeing some very, very strong indication of strong damaging winds up towards Clarksville. But this does expand as far south as Gull Lake, now really to the east of Gull Lake towards Level Park, making its way towards Battle Creek. Battle Creek at this point in time, Sunrise Heights, Bellevue, those are going to be some areas that could potentially be experiencing upwards of 70-mile-per-hour wind gusts shortly here. So it's within those zones that we're asking you to at least seek shelter at minimum. And if you are underneath the tornado warning, not only seeking shelter, but inside your shelter location. That's going to be a basement interior room with no windows, staying as far away from your windows as possible. And of course, those of you in the newsroom, if we have any damage reports from all of you, I would love to get a list of those, and I can get some of that out to our viewers as well. Blake, Amber, anything new that you're seeing?
We actually just got sent in a report. It's in our chat, and it sounds like producers are working on getting it in so that we can show all of you at home as well. But a power line on fire in Zeeland because of a tree that's on it. So it sounds like this is something that we're going to be able to get to you at some point here, hopefully soon.
Feel free to go ahead and pull those pictures up, and I can talk them through us. But Blake and Amber, if you guys can keep a close eye on velocity and what's going on in some of these locations. So here are some of the photos that we've received over the last several hours. Jenna, thank you so much for sending these in from Hudsonville. You can see some ominous clouds. You can see even some dropping inside of those clouds. That's one of the areas that was warned earlier today. Dark and dreary conditions. Of course, this was all a part of this large cluster of thunderstorms that's been progressing throughout West Michigan since about the 9 o'clock hour today. It's racing on out of here at this point in time with only a couple areas left warned. Here we can also see, sent from Gabrielle, you can see multiple trees down across the driveway there, damage indicated. The power lines look to still be standing, but that is something that we'll be watching really closely for in terms of concerns. Anytime we get trees down, we also typically see power lines coming down along with them. If there are power lines down in your area, we ask that you avoid the area completely and go ahead and call 911 to notify them of the power line being down. You need to treat it as though it is still active in a very dangerous situation. Wow, really incredible photos shared here from Eric out of Holland. Always, you can text these storm photos to us at 616-559-1310. Eric, you can see, I mean, that's a wild photo there. Very ominous cloud coming through our area, rolling in. I want to jump back, though, if we can, to our radar site so that we can jump back into coverage here. Meteorologist Blake Hansen over at the Green Wall with us this evening. Blake, I want you to tell us a little bit about, the areas that are safe and the areas that are still really, really underneath the concern.
I think the biggest thing here is that for those that are back to the north and west of Grand Rapids, by far likelier in the clear of any additional severe weather risk as this evening goes on. Still watching for a few additional thunderstorms on the southern end of Lake Michigan that could be rolling through along our I-94 counties, just because for those that are south of Kalamazoo and Battle Creek, for the most part have been left untouched by this line of thunderstorm activity that has come through. Our focus continues to be in parts of Ionia County, specifically now between Lake Odessa and Portland. Velocity is still indicating isolated pockets of wind in excess of 70 to 80 miles per hour. We go down this line, we have another potential to the east of Vermontville, a little bit of rotation, at least a broad rotation being shown in velocity, our product there. That's pressing into Eaton County, and then a little bit towards Gull Lake, down towards the Kalamazoo-Calhoun County line. So we have a few areas of concern still as this bow echo works its way farther through West Michigan. This is now getting closer to mid-Michigan towards the Lansing area. So in due time, we will likely see this severe risk come to an end for just about all spots across West Michigan, especially from those that are watching in Holland, Grand Rapids. If you're watching in Muskegon, for example, right now, Muskegon, Pentwater, Ludington, there is no concern for additional severe weather as this evening goes on. Our focus right now is the eastern half of Ionia County, a little bit into western Eaton County, the tail end of Berry County, the southeastern corner of Berry County at least. For those that are maybe watching southward of Nashville, that is where we're watching that line come through, and then eventually into parts of Kalamazoo and Calhoun County. So that is where we'll be continuing to watch for any sign of enhancement along this line. At the very least, it still does appear between Lake Odessa and Portland. That is where we're seeing, or I should say, Lake Odessa and Portland. That is where we're seeing some of the strongest winds to the north. This radar is still indicating that there are wind gusts in excess of 70 to 80 miles per hour. That is nothing to fool around with. Also watching for any of that broad rotation that is trying to sneak in. Same thing goes around Vermontville. That's just to the east of Vermontville, to the north of Chester. That is in Eaton County, there, Charlotte. So to the north of Charlotte, that is where we're going to be watching for this line, this continuation of the line, still showing that notch perspective. And then a little bit farther to the south towards Gull Lake, that's east of Gull Lake now, and really towards the Battle Creek area, still watching for some strong winds that are mixing down to the surface, at least maybe upwards of 60 miles per hour. But a lot of this now pressing to the east. Many of us in West Michigan nearing the end of our severe weather risk, which is good news. It is 10 o'clock now here in the evening. These storms kicked off at about 8:30 or so, meaning that we've only been dealing with this for about 90 minutes, an hour and a half, and this has raced from the lakeshore, that strong bow echo, now into the eastern portions of our viewing area here at 13 on your side. This is heading more towards Lansing, that area within the next hour. So that is what we're going to be continuing to watch for these next 15 minutes or so as these storms roll through. We still have the ongoing tornado warning for southern Ionia County, really southeastern Ionia County, and northern Eaton County until 10:30 this evening. That includes cities such as Eagle, Grand Ledge, Portland. That is where we're indicating some of those notches along the line and watching very closely for any rotation that can tighten up. We have just enough wind shear in our atmosphere tonight to support that ongoing tornado risk, and also enough energy in our atmosphere for that broader straight line wind risk. We talked about this over the last couple days. That was our potential with the ingredients in our atmosphere, and that has come to fruition, at least spots that have dealt with the strongest storms. There it is. We are back into our split box, it appears like, for NHL hockey. In about 9 minutes to the third period, for those that are wondering. So you will see the end of this game between the Hurricanes and Golden Knights. But let's get back to weather here, and you can still see southern Ionia County, really the southeastern corner of Ionia County. This is heading right towards the Portland area. For those that are near Grand Ledge, you have about 5 minutes. 5 minutes, that's about it before this storm goes through. And for those, I know this is getting now, this would be outside of our viewing area here at 13 on your side, but for those that have friends maybe in Eagle, in Diamonddale, Lansing, Holt, Bath, that's where we're going to be watching. That's where you want to maybe let those friends and family members know that the storm has had a little bit of a history of some strong winds, the potential for some embedded tornadoes. In fact, there was a radar confirmed tornado near Freeport earlier this evening, just about 40 minutes ago, not even a half hour ago, near Freeport to the south and east of Caledonia. That's where we had a little bit of a tornado debris signature working through. We will be closely looking for more information on that as the night goes on, and especially as we wake up tomorrow morning. It's a little bit tough now. We're in the nighttime period, so that's something we are going to be really watching and trying to gather more information about as we progress into tomorrow. That tornado debris signature that the National Weather Service locked in on near the Freeport area. That's in northern Berry County, right on the Berry, Kent, Ionia County line, that intersection right there. But you can still see that line coming through, some strong winds just to the south of Portland. This is I-96 right here. There's Portland, south side, there it is, there's Eagle. Yeah, there's 96, and you can see the strongest winds are just to the south of the highway there. There are still winds potentially upwards of 70 to 80 miles per hour to the south of the highway there, south of Portland. We also have this one, there's Vermontville, so this is eastward of Vermontville, heading towards Potterville. It's getting a little bit outside of our viewing area almost. This is going to be the eastern edge of our viewing area, and then this will be more in the Lansing market. But this is still indicating some wind gusts of 60 miles per hour. And you can still tell there's a little bit of notching occurring here. There's still that broad rotation, that embedded tornado risk, that spin-up risk as this line goes through. So we're going to continue to watch for that. And I think a little bit farther to the south, there's still a few ripples in the line there, especially as you get a little bit eastward of Battle Creek, at least some stronger winds to the east of M66 here. This is I-94, there's 69. Yeah, this general area right here, that's where we're seeing some stronger winds take hold over the course of the last 10 minutes or so. That's pushing farther into northern Calhoun County. Amber, anything else that you've been noticing here over the last few minutes? Appreciate you driving my radar here, really do. You've been in the driver's seat here, so I really appreciate it. Anything that you've been noticing over the last 5 minutes? Really, it seems a lot of us are in the clear.
Yeah, it seems like a lot of people are starting to get into the clear, especially if you're closer to the lakeshore. That's where we're seeing finally a little bit of relief, which is definitely some good news. I do want to note that we've seen a couple of reports coming in either through the chat that we have with the National Weather Service, a couple of things that we've gotten even from the newsroom. But if you do have any reports, if you're in the clear areas right around Holland, throughout most of Allegan County at this point, especially Allegan County to the west of US 131, those are a couple of areas where not only are you in the clear, but we would love to hear any of your damage reports. It's likely still raining outside. If you were to hear any thunder, see any lightning, of course, don't go outside for 30 minutes. Most of Kent County also in the clear at this point. So most of this threat now displaced further off to the east. Still a concern for Berry County and of course all of these counties that are underneath warnings still. Looking at severe thunderstorm warnings heading over towards the Lansing area and then also a bit further south getting into northern Calhoun County. Those spots where we're not seeing nearly as much of a threat, we would love to see your damage reports if you want to send us in pictures, if you want to send us in rain totals, if you have a weather system at home that can see what the wind gusts were when that storm passed through. We'd love to hear it all. So you can send that number. I'm going to say it twice so that you can write it down if you're able to, and we might be able to get it on the screen as well. But that number is 616-559-1310. It's at the bottom of your screen. That is where you can send us storm photos, any type of storm reports that you see. If you have any trees down in your yard, we'd love to see it all. Once again, 616-559-1310. So we are starting to see finally a little bit of relief for more so lakeshore counties than anything else. And this was certainly a concern just a couple of hours ago, not too long ago. We saw some really strong winds rolling through Ottawa County, Allegan County, even Kent. But now at this point, let's just get a little bit of an overview of where we're seeing these storms still. So I'll kind of stop radar here and then I'll flip over to one of our more high resolution products. This is looking at raw radar data. So we still are seeing severe thunderstorm warnings that have a considerable tag through most of Ionia County, really the eastern portion of Ionia County, extending further east as well, and then also over towards the Charlotte area. So Eaton County, that really extends outside of our viewing area, but if you've got any friends or family over towards Lansing, they are also going to be experiencing these thunderstorms very soon from now. So anybody who has students going to MSU, maybe they're still on campus, this is going to be one of those areas that is expecting not just these severe thunderstorms, but possibly even starting to see a couple of these little areas where we have rotation traveling in that direction. Also still looking at a severe thunderstorm warning, no considerable tag, but we still are seeing a warning nonetheless, and we do want to respect that down towards Battle Creek, really just the northern half of Calhoun County. So for those that are along and north of I-94, that's for the most part where we're seeing this. That's really for the most part where I would say you could still see some of these thunderstorms. South of I-94, I'm not seeing as much of that potential. I want to give you a quick look too at what we're seeing from our tornado warnings, because we still have a couple of those in place.
And Amber, I just wanted to give you a quick update that there was a report from the Kent County, one of the Kent County Skyward members, that train spotter reports railroad crossing guards at 80th and Chicago Drive, I believe that is more western Kent County, were blown off their mounts.
Oh.
So
wow.
Just putting that in perspective, that's not a breeze.
Yeah.
Those were some strong wind gusts, again, at 80th and Chicago Drive. I can't put that in perspective exactly where that's at in western Kent County, or in western Kent County. But again, the railroad crossing guards at 80th and Chicago Drive were blown off their mounts when those storms came through. So that is something that is very impressive. Takes some wind to do so. I believe that might be a little bit.
Looks like it's close to
Zeeland. It might be Zeeland again, especially if that's Chicago Drive. Well, I guess that could be more. That looks to be a little bit eastward of north and east of Granville.
Yeah.
So right to the south of 196. So again, western Kent County, that's some strong wind there. Very intrigued to see if there's going to be any pictures sent there of what that looks like afterwards. But again, yeah, some railroad crossing guards at 80th and Chicago Drive blown off their mounts. We are getting towards the tail end here, I would say, of what we are going to see here in our area over the next few minutes. I think for those that want to continue watching some of our last coverage of the night, we are going to continue on streaming for at least a few more minutes. It's 10:11 right now. We'll probably go to about 10:30 this evening. For those watching us all evening long, we thank you for your patience as these storms have come through. Myself, Sam, come on here real quick. Really appreciate everything you have done.
Still here.
Still here. So we are going to let this be. It does appear that this tornado warning, at least the strongest of this storm, is now eastward of Ionia County and is pressing farther into eastern Eaton County. We are going to take you off. We're going to let you go back to regular programming, the full screen and audio of the NHL final. So thank you for those that have bared with us. Obviously, we take weather seriously here, and we had tornado warnings. We've had many reports of damage across West Michigan. So these storms did present what we've been talking about for a few days. So we are going to let you go. It looks like the third period of this game here is going to start. We're going to remain on streaming on the 13 on Your Side app. It is free to download. So if you want to continue watching our coverage for a few more minutes, you can watch us there. For now, we will let you go back to the NHL, the Stanley Cup Finals in full. Thank you, everyone.
All right.
Real quick.
Good evening, everybody. I'm Chief Meteorologist Samantha Jacks. We've got meteorologist Amber Tuardi here, meteorologist Blake Hansen still in the Weather Center, looking at some of the photos that we have received recently. We still have an ongoing tornado warning in effect for Clinton, Eaton, and Ionia County. The rest of our area from the Lake Shore's edge through Kent County, Berry County, and of course the whole western side of Ionia County is no longer underneath any sort of severe weather concern, but we are still monitoring the portion of the system that's headed towards Grand Ledge. Not necessarily in our viewing area, but we'll keep a close eye on things. We really want to quickly run through some of the just really fascinating photos that we have received and some of the damage reports we have received over the last several hours here. Of course, when we are in ongoing tornado coverage, we don't get to see some of the beautiful photos that you've sent us, but thank you so much to Alicia for sending this photo in from Grand Haven looking northwest. You can see those clouds looking a bit ominous there, heavy rainfall coming down in the distance as well. Some of our next photos here, beautiful shelf cloud rolling in, sent in there from Carrie.
Algonquin?
Algonquin, thank you.
Wow,
we'll go with
look at
Hastings.
that.
How about that? Hastings, one of the areas that we monitored really closely for signs of rotation, at least to the north of it. And so we were, you can see that's a really strong structure that rolled through there, certainly. Thank you so much, Carrie, for sharing this photo with us. We have multiple photos sent in from Jenna out of Hudsonville, one of the first areas to have been experiencing some of those severe storms when they did roll through. You can see little dips coming down out of those clouds, part of why, we were seeing some tornado warnings issued from earlier this evening. On to some of our next photos here, tree damage, tons of reports. I talked to our digital manager to see how things were coming in and see what people were experiencing out in the elements, and lots of tree damage, lots of power line damage, and this is one of those examples sent in from Holland. Biggest thing of note, when you see tree damage, when you see power lines down, we can't stress enough that you always need to be acting as though those power lines are active and running, and steer clear of them. The best thing you can do in those incidences, it's to first call 911. Even before contacting your energy provider, we ask that you call 911 to ensure yours and everyone around you's safety. Beautiful photo sent in here from Eric out of Holland as well. Just some really dark and fascinating skies there as those storms rolled through.
Yeah, we've definitely had some really strong winds that have rolled through the Holland area as well. A lot of reports. Oh, wow. Yeah, and this one was from Zeeland. The sound of it.
Yeah, I mean, you can hear the sound of the power line being on fire there. This was sent in from Simon out of Zeeland. The tree, it looks like maybe is on top of the power line and sparked that fire. Kind of a really scary situation ongoing there. Thank you so much, Simon, for sharing that video with us. If you have videos like this, pictures like this, now that these storms have moved past, you can text them to us at 616-559-1310. We are partners with the National Weather Service in that we report all sorts of severe weather and severe weather damage across the area to them, and that helps them to decide where they need to be sending crews out to assess damage, to assess whether or not there was tornadoes or straight line winds that moved through those areas. It's also how we get things out to emergency managers and first responders to make sure we're getting crews to the right places. The media is all a part of that process. So if you can text those reports to us at 616-559-1310, that would be fantastic. And of course, meteorologist Amber Tuardi on Max 2 right now does have some of our local storm reports listed on the map. Amber, what are some things that the National Weather Service has already put in their system and pushed out?
We've got 4 so far. I think that a lot more are going to start to pop up as we head into the next even hour or so, honestly. But Zeeland, looking at a report from 9:05 of trees and wires down in somebody's yard along West McKinley Avenue. We also saw multiple reports that were in a bit more generic locations, but that did report trees and wires down. There was also a 6-inch branch that was downed at an intersection of Chicago and South Waverly around Holland. That was just before 9 o'clock as well. Now, as that storm traveled east, I do want to point out, look at how that report from Zeeland, 9:05, just over 10 minutes later, just shy of 15 minutes later, really, that storm arrived to the Belmont area and downed a tree on a roadway. Allegan proper saw a report from 9:09, trees and wires down at Cutler and Cedar Street. Once again, that was in Allegan itself. So we've seen a lot of pictures from people showing really impressive cloud structures. We have certainly seen even some of those debris signatures showing up on our radar product that can show us where you have essentially non-uniform things in the atmosphere. That's kind of the best way that I can put it, is that it looks at basically how uniform something is. If you have something that is like a raindrop where it's fairly circular, it's not going to read back as too much, but that's why you would look at that product to show off if there was any type of debris that was being lofted into the atmosphere. We saw a couple of those areas where it got a little bit messy, and maybe there were a few spots where debris signatures could have been detected, especially one that was east of Caledonia. I know the National Weather Service noted that one specifically. Something else that I want to note as well, this is technically outside of our viewing area. I do just want to point it out though, because we have seen another tornado warning down to our south in Cass County. The reason I really want to point that out too is that that goes through the Cassopolis area just north of Edwardsburg. Early this season, we had a round of thunderstorms, really just one thunderstorm that dropped multiple tornadoes. And Cass County was one of those areas that was impacted. We talked about Marcellus during that time frame. So if you have any family down into Southwest Michigan, especially Cass County, Cassopolis area, this is one spot where there is another tornado warning in place. But that's not the only one that we're seeing. We are seeing one still a little bit further off to the east, more so into mid-Michigan. If you know anybody at MSU, we do have this line that's moving into the Lansing area, currently right over Grand Ledge, Potterville. This is right now in Clinton and Eaton counties. This will impact areas like Diamonddale, Grand Ledge, of course, and right now it is over Potterville. This will be in effect for the next at least 10 minutes, but as this line continues to travel further east, at very least, yes, we're seeing that notch, but still we are seeing more widespread, very strong winds, and that was our main concern heading into this evening, but we do want to treat strong winds as well as tornado warnings, of course, very seriously.
Yeah, and Amber, just from the National Weather Service, they just released a new report of extensive tree damage with multiple trees down along M66 just past Whippley Road. That's one of their latest, you know what? Yeah,
that is around.
That is in Ionia County. Train storm spotter that got printed at 10:19, but I wonder, it actually is a report from 9:51, so you may have already actually had that on your map when you were talking there just a second ago. What we're waiting for here is we are waiting for Nick Nelson. He's one of our reporters. He's out in the field, and he is going to kind of give us an update on, I've been messaging with him, on what he's been experiencing out there throughout this evening. We actually are no longer underneath the severe weather threat at this point in time, but we're going to send things out to Nick Nelson. Nick, I believe you're in the weather chaser. I am sure you've been through it this evening with this powerful line of storms that moved through. Talk to us about what you experienced, and kind of what you're working on for our 11 o'clock newscast.
That's right, Sam. We started out in Holland. This is, of course, on the lakeshore where that line of thunderstorms was coming in very quickly. We heard of tornado warnings in some of those counties in Ottawa County and some of those lakeshore counties right there. Right now, we're heading out to Freeport. That is where you guys have been saying that there has been a report of a touchdown tornado. We're going there right now to see any kind of damage that may be getting there. I've been taking a look at some of the additional photos of damage reports that we've been getting as well. So we're going to monitor the situation there, see if there's anybody there that we can talk to about what they may have experienced. They're in Freeport, close to where we're hearing that there was a tornado touchdown, in fact. So, Sam, we'll send it back to you. We're about 23 minutes away from Freeport, so once we get there, we'll have a better indication of what's going on there. Back to you.
All right. Well, we thank you so much, Nick, for staying safe during the storm, for being the one that's out there. That's always scary, Amber. I mean, you and I have both been in those situations before. When you're in there, the sun goes down, it's dark outside, and you're out in the field. So we're really grateful for your work tonight, Nick, and thank you for going and getting those reports. It can be hard after dark, you know, to find where the damage was. Sometimes we do almost have to wait until sunrise to really get an indication of what happened at the surface, especially when we get out in some of those more rural communities where maybe it didn't necessarily impact a house, but sun might come up tomorrow morning and we see it went through a field. And so that's something now that our crews are going to be working on. The weather team, we get to breathe a sigh of relief at this point because our work here is kind of done.
Yeah, I want to ask for those in the back also, before we kind of wrap things up for tonight, I want to check in on power outages, kind of see where we stand with that. I know last night we got upwards of 100,000. This morning, there was certainly quite a bit of improvement.
Still 70,000 when I was in earlier this morning. So,
oh my gosh.
Do we have any updates on power outages?
How many does that say? Does it look like? All right, so we're seeing over 17,000 people are affected. And how many power outages did you say there? 511 power outages. And a lot of those, I am noticing quite a few of those are east, and that's where we saw some of those really bright signatures on velocity data, kind of suggesting where we were seeing, yes, rotation, but that's why we really wanted to point out that these considerable threats, even if you're not under a tornado warning, still definitely pack quite the punch. A lot of those power outages that are in place.
Yeah, highly concentrated to the eastern edge of Kent County and then extending into Ionia County and down through Barry County. So those are some of the locations that we're sure crews are going to be headed out to shortly here to start to work on some of those restoration efforts. Another little cluster of power outages looks to really be prevalent in Ottawa County, and that's actually just to the east of Zeeland, it looks like. And that was another area that we watched really, really closely for some really strong damaging winds on the leading edge of the system when it first worked its way into our area. So you can see overall, we're still contending with some power outages. We have crews out in the field that are going to be assessing some of the damage. And overall, we just refreshed the page, new number from our producer. We've got 36,000 power outages at this point. Blake, if you want to come on in here, we're going to wrap things up really fast. And we are just so grateful that all of you joined us for the amount of time that you did. This was a long duration severe, well, it actually went pretty fast, but
it's a little quicker compared to some of the events we've done.
Some of the ones that we've done. It began earlier this evening between 8 to 9 o'clock. Honestly, today was one of those head scratcher days. We didn't really know how things were going to play out at certain points because we had a lot of things in the environment that were potentially hurting the severe weather risk. here we are hours later with multiple tornado warnings and severe thunderstorm warnings. So we thank you guys so much for joining us this evening.
I just want to say, tomorrow I know is your last day here at 13 on your side, and we are so thankful for everything you have done here. We really are over the last 6 years, and it means the world for us, including coming here tonight when you still have to work a full shift tomorrow morning and sign off here at WZZM. We really appreciate you, and it really means from the bottom of our heart. So,
if there's one thing that you all should know is that I think you are the world's greatest team, and I wanted to be here not just to support you, but to get that feeling of working alongside you guys just one more time, because you really truly are incredible.
Likewise.
You guys are in the absolute best hands with the meteorologists still on this team. And I can't thank you guys enough for everything that you guys always do in the evenings covering these storms. I don't always get to be here because I'm up at 2 o'clock in the morning, but I wasn't going to miss going through this last round with you guys.
No.
So thank you all so much for joining us. Tune in tomorrow morning to really see me cry. And if you have any damage reports, you can text them to us at 616-559-1310.